Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kata Chronicles. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of the Kata Chronicles. This is episode number 13. Today's guest is an old friend of mine. Obviously, they're all old friends of mine, it seems. This one comes... Well, yeah, we are all old. You'll know... Most of you guys will know him from guitar player of Ironed Out, producer and co-presenter of Everyone But Us podcast, and formerly of Beatdown Fury and 50 Caliber and 1,000 other fucking bands at some point or another. Mr. Stephen Hill. How you doing, bruv?
Buongiorno. Yeah, good. Yeah, everyone's been in 1,000 fucking bands, haven't they?
It's London hardcore for you, bruv.
Let's face it.
It's what we do, isn't it? We just jump around from band to band to band to band.
Yeah, it's basically just a big old pit of incest.
Was BDF your first band?
No, I was in a band before that, and we were called Method of Murder.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
I played guitar. When I joined the band, I was about 17, and it was like a new metal kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was never really that into new metal. So when I joined, it started getting influenced in a certain direction. So it kind of ended up this like hardcore new metal hybrid, and then the stuff we wrote before we split up was just pretty much hardcore, but it never went anywhere.
Yeah.
When BDF came along, that started consuming all of my time. So yeah.
Because you played bass in BDF, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. And Andy on
never
guitar.
played bass before, but I thought, fuck it, give it a go.
It gave you a band that was more what you was into doing, I suppose, so.
Yeah. To be honest, BDF was a weird one because there was a pre-BDF rehearsal that we did. And I think there was two sides of BDF that came together to be BDF.
Right.
So I think Andy and Pete were doing something which was much more BDF sounding. Like they had something in the works.
Right, yeah.
And I did a rehearsal with... Fucking hell. I think it was Ray, Pedro... I think Ollie Ninebar should have been there but didn't, because I think he's going to play the drums and Ray was going to do something else. I was on the bass for that as well, and there was this other kid called Graham who was in Area Effect.
Right, yeah.
And we were that kind of... We had one rehearsal and it sounded kind of bulldozy what we were coming up with.
Okay.
And then it kind of dropped away for a little bit, and then we was at some show and we met Ali. Like Pedro introduced me to Ali, and then we were like, "Yeah, we're rehearsing soon." I was like, "Oh, yeah, all right, cool." And then that was it.
We're rehearsing soon. You just like, for what?
Yeah.
Sorry, what's going on?
It was funny, man, because when the band first started, it was all the songs were so over the top tough guy, and I was having trouble getting it. I was just like, what is this? Like, why are we so over the top with all this shit? And Andy went, it's just to piss people off. You know that, didn't you? And I was like, all right. So we're kind of like a half parody band then. And he was like, yeah. So that's kind of like what got me convinced to like stick with it, to be honest with you, because it was just a laugh.
Yeah, and it even the first demo is proper over the top.
That's stupid. But it's stupid, but I still love it as well.
Well, is it the first one?
The one that knew us would have thought like, oh, these like... Well, actually, with a couple of exceptions.
Yeah.
Nobody would have met us and thought, oh, these guys are fucking dangerous.
Is it the first or the second one that's got the infamous sample in it? Demos.
Yeah, that was... I think our second demo, we decided to call it Anthology.
Right, yeah.
because we put the first demo on the end of it. And yeah, that was the second demo that started off with that sample.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. You could never put that out now.
It's no. There's too much on that now that when I listen to it, I'm like, this is just too much. If it was listening to that now, they just wouldn't understand it. They wouldn't understand why it was funny.
And that's the thing. You got to remember, very different time. And we were like, what? You guys were all 20s, early 20s. Some of you probably late teens.
I think Ali would have been about 18.
Yeah.
I was about 20, I think. 21. Something like that.
So, yeah.
That's fucking 20 years ago. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Fuck it. It's madness when you think back on it now. It's just like, Jesus Christ, we've been doing this for like 20 years or whatever.
I don't remember half of it anymore.
Because how long after that did Maldito start?
Oh, Maldito was...
Because that's 2004, isn't it? 2003,
2003, maybe, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a funny band to be in as well.
That had about 20 vocalists.
Yeah. I mean, as you can imagine, rehearsing in that band was just like... I'm not a weed smoker, but I was a weed smoker when I was in Maldito, just from all of the fumes that was... The fucking rehearsal room was just a hot box.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Half the lyrics was in Spanish, so I didn't understand them. And I just basically sat there until it was my time to do like a couple of words.
I just remember like seeing live shows, it'd just be like, no venue ever had enough mics. It'd just be like passing the mic off back and forth, and trying to remember who the fuck's next up.
Yeah. No, it was like when I was doing my bits, because I only had a couple of little bits, most of the time I'd just be standing on stage like, sort of thing, just looking like a fanny. And then, I had to sort of like tap someone on the shoulder and be like, yeah, it's my bit now.
Yeah, because you did most of the melodic vocals, didn't you?
I did all the singing bits.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've heard, what's it called? Injury Time, when they do cover.
Yeah.
It's better with Fatty doing it. He does it better. So I think I'm retired from that.
He's kind of got that sort of almost football hooligan sounding voice when he does it.
Yeah.
It's like it's more of a sort of chant than it is a song. But yeah, I mean, it works perfectly for the setting and what we're doing. So
yeah.
I think Rocky even said to me once though that he actually plays it slightly differently when he plays it with Injury Time than to how he plays it with Maldito.
Okay.
Which I was quite surprised at, because I was like, you're covering your own song. Surely you play it the same way. Like, no, we do play it slightly differently. I was like, that's strange, because it doesn't sound, to my uneducated ear,
don't sound to my ear any different either.
Any different whatsoever. So I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. That was the one band that I could just get hammered and it wouldn't make a difference. It's probably better if I was hammered.
And then is Ironed Out the next band you probably did after that?
No.
Because you was in Calibre for a bit, weren't you?
So I joined Calibre in about 2003, I think. And I was with Calibre till about 2008, and then I come back again for about a year after that. I think no. In fact, no, I come back for about another 5 years after that. I was in that band for quite a long time. I just missed the bit where they wrote the songs.
It's because, like, I saw you with Calibre when they played with Sworn Enemy at the Borderline.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, and it was... The thing is, I hadn't seen Calibre at that point for a couple of years, so I didn't know all the fucking lineup change.
Yeah.
So I'm down on the floor, and Terry Ainge was there watching. And I saw Andy walk up to him and be like, oh, I've got a job for you, jokingly. And he's like, oh, I've got a job for you. You want to come play guitar for Calibre? And Angie laughed. And I thought, well, yeah, he's going to be up there in a minute anyway. And then he wasn't. And I was just really I was like, no, there's Billy, there's Terry. What the fuck else? What's going on here? Oh, no, it wasn't Terry, I don't think, either. I think it might have been Andy Baz singing for you It's fine.
Oh yeah, no, I was in that. That's when I came into the band when Baz was doing the vocals.
Yeah, so it wasn't even Terry singing, I don't think, at that point. I think it was Billy was the only original member left.
Yeah, at that point, yeah. So I had Baz on vocals, Leon on bass, and me and Andy on guitar.
Guitar, yeah. And that completely threw me for a loop because I was like, so, because technically I'd gone to see that show because I knew Caliber were playing. I thought, I'll catch up with everyone. And no fucker was in the band that I knew. I was like, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, I think it must have been weird for a lot of people, just to see that lineup. It was a weird one, to be honest. If I remember rightly, I think when Billy asked me to do it, he just said, "Oh, can you fill in for a couple of weeks?" I just said, "Yeah." And then as time went on, I was like, "When is this couple of weeks going to end then?"
It just kept going.
Just kind of kept going for about 6 years or something. Yeah, so I'm 50 caliber, and then what did I do? I did I'm trying to fucking think now.
Didn't you do a band briefly with Frank who were over in Holland?
Oh yeah, that's much later on.
Yeah.
So I've done. Okay, now I'm trying to get my fucking brain in gear. So I did that, and then I did Ambush. I joined Ambush.
Oh, was you in Ambush? I didn't even realise you
I
did.
played for Ambush. And then that was great fun, man, because Tubbs is one of my best mates, and
Yeah.
like it's just a crack up, man. Me, Tubbs, Duncan, and Scott. It was just a stupid band for the drunken antics.
Yeah, because Bossett was on the demo of that as well, wasn't he? Peachy, who did focus on the demo of that.
Yeah, Peachy was gone by the time
the album
I joined, and Trev, the previous bassist, is who I replaced. I think he left for some reason or other. But yeah, no, we went to America, and it was supposed to be like a East Coast tour, and it ended up being 2 gigs. But as you can imagine, we made the best of it.
Yeah.
And then I joined a metal band with some of my mates called Pure Negative.
Okay.
Like proper, like technical, fresh kind of stuff. 9-minute long tunes, and
oh fuck.
I was bass player for that, and it was, to be honest with you, I still love playing that stuff now, like, because the songs are so complicated. When we played live, it was just we rehearsed twice a week. It's one of them bands where you were really like had to be dedicated to do it, because the songs were so sort of like they sort of tested my levels of musicianship, and but once you were like fully up to speed on it, my fucking god, man, like we were tight live doing that stuff. But that sort of band, you're either tight or you're fucking dreadful. So
yeah, you kind of have to be tight if it's going to be that technical, because otherwise it just sounds like a mess.
Yeah. That's we just put the album, funnily enough, on Spotify, because we did an album and split up immediately afterwards. Like literally like a couple of months after it come out, we were done. And then it was Caliber again, and then I moved to Holland, and then I started. Frank started Kai Horo, and I was playing guitar for that. So that was Frank and Willem, who were like original No Turning Back members.
Yeah.
And that was great fun, man, because I kind of had a shitty time when I was living out there. And that band, like those two, like it was just like a proper salvation, man. That once every week or once every 2 weeks was like going back to my life, if you know what I mean, rather than like I was having a bit of a fucking shit time. So that period of time just playing music for a few hours a week was just proper like what I needed.
Yeah.
And the songs were pretty decent, actually.
Yeah, I've got a demo that Frank sent me.
Yeah,
that's pretty decent.
Yeah. We had this song, and when we were writing it, we couldn't. I said this bit, when this riff ends, everything needs to come to a stop, and we need a drum fill. I think it'd sound really cool. And I was like, in my head, I've got that Phil Collins thing from In the Air Tonight. And I was just like, look, let's just work with that one for the time being. And so William started playing that, and we were like, that sounds really good. So we got we got a guy in from the rehearsal studio, and we were like, do you recognise this drum? Do you recognise anything about this song? And we played him that section, and he was like, no, I don't hear anything. We were like, all right, we'll keep it. So if anyone's got that Kai Horror demo, can't remember what the song was called now, but yeah, there's the
Something in the air tonight, drum fill.
drum fill in there. It's a little bit sped up, but it is in there nonetheless. And then when I come back, Dave had already sent me ironed out stuff. I think I might be wrong, but I think we were talking about doing something, and it might have been ironed out. He was talking to me, but I was just like, I'm moving, so I know. So I think when everything went tits up and I come back, he just sent it to me straight away, and I was into it. And then 3 weeks after I moved back, we recorded a demo. So it was like straight back into like my life again. So it's fucking cool.
Yeah, because I remember coming up to Milton Keynes for one day and just hanging out while you guys recorded the first demo.
Yeah, that was a good laugh, man.
Yeah,
it's a real good laugh. When I think back to that demo now, when I listen to it now, we were chatting about it the other day. It's just like, it sounds really sloppy and loose, but at the time we were like, "This is sick." But then we listen back, it's like, damn.
the thing is, like, with a demo, it doesn't really matter too much if it does sound a bit sloppy because it's a demo and most people accept that's what it is.
Yeah.
And secondly, your demos where you're finding your feet, it's not really like a proper release type of thing. It's kind of like, this is when you're figuring out.
When I got back, we'd done, I think, 1 or 2 rehearsals, and then we had the show opening up for Fury of 5 at that.
Yeah, I remember that.
New 12-bar thing. And I remember during the intro, like, because like Dave's the main songwriter in the band, and he's standing down, and he was still getting used to being a vocalist at the time, so he was facing the stage a little bit. And I was playing, and then I realised I didn't remember. This is already like in the intro. And then I look at Dave, and he just starts creasing up. I'm like, fucking tell me what's oh, God.
I remember at one point during that show, I think he looked over at George because he was just like, can you slow down a bit? Because I can't breathe that fucking fast. Because obviously, again, it's that thing of like, when you write something and record it, you play it at a certain pace. When you play it live, everything's sped up because adrenaline kicks in.
Yeah.
But like, from a vocalist point of view, you're trying to catch your breath. And especially with the way that Dave's vocals are, because it's based on grime.
Yeah.
Got a lot of words in a short space of time sort of thing that he's got to get out.
Yeah, it's reliant on the rhythm, definitely. And like, yeah, when you speed that shit up, Dave's just gonna keel over and die if he don't get a breather in.
It's like there's no room to take a breath because it's just, like I say, it's grime, it's hip hop, so it's kind of like bang, 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 constant.
Yeah.
And if you're going, oh yeah, but we've gone from what we normally record at like 140 BPM to 170 BPM because it's live and adrenaline's kicked in, that poor fucker's got to be like, and go.
Yeah. That was always quite fun playing live like that. Trying to keep it like slow because it is difficult, man. But you know what? In like, I always thought I used to be like quite a Ramones fan when I was a kid, and I would listen to the live stuff way more than the studio stuff.
Yeah,
because it was just better. It was just faster.
I think there are some bands where yes, listening to the live version is better. I mean, for me and with hardcore, certainly, I think that because our music lives in a live setting more than it does on record.
Yeah,
like hardcore is definitely a live form of music. There are certain forms of music, like I can listen to something like ISIS or Cult of Luna, and I don't need to go and see that live. On record is where that kind of lives. Live, it's you kind of stood there nodding your head very slowly to it, and there's not a lot of interaction.
Yeah, I get that.
But with hardcore, that interaction is what makes the music.
Yeah.
So
I always wonder what it like. Tool obviously do a lot of shows to a lot of people, but whenever I listen to them, and I don't not like Tool. I've just never bothered getting into them. I have one now. I think I have the first like EP, whatever it is, mini album.
Oh, OP8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I really like that. But I never got anything after that for some reason. And but I can't imagine seeing them live and it being crazy.
No, I mean, I've seen them. I saw them live quite a bit when they were touring Lateralis.
Yeah,
Um, and it's very weird because Maynard's not, at least when I've seen him, he's not really a frontman who stands at the front of the stage and paces up and down.
yeah.
He's actually off to the back of the stage on a little platform.
Right, so he's not even the centre of attention, sort of
No,
thing.
he kind of allows the music to be the centre of attention. Then they have like a laser show and screens up and showing all different kinds of film footage and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They have a whole kind of show type thing around it, and the music's like a soundtrack to it all.
I guess that works though for that sort of stuff.
For the kind of stuff they do, especially the later stuff, yes.
Yeah,
Problem I have with them is on record now, I find them kind of dull. It's like they forgot that they are intrinsically a rock band and they don't really have many sections where they just balls to the wall rock out anymore.
I think with that sort of music, you've got to have a balance. Like,
Yeah.
it's fucking really cool to have all that kind of like, 3/4 into 7/8 into whatever. But if you don't have like a section where it's just like boom, bat, or whatever, then it's kind of you kind of lose. Like it loses me totally. Dream Theater started going that way. Some people might disagree with me, but their stuff just got too complicated, and it just become about how great they were.
Yeah, it becomes more about musicianship than musicality.
Yeah,
Like for me, it's like I love technical music. Like my favorite hardcore band is Converge.
right. Yeah.
That's not exactly simplistic music.
See, I like fucking stuff which is I like complicated stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's got to have something that I can get my teeth into as well.
Precisely, you know what I mean?
Punch the air to.
One of the things I do like about Converge is that there will be sections of a song where they'll just strip back down to a standard beat structure and all the rest of it, and they'll all groove for a minute or whatever in that section, and then they'll all dissipate out into whatever fucking madness they're going to do next.
Yeah.
There's always sections of a song that come back to that sort of standard hardcore sort of rhythmic 1, 2, 3, 4, and then they go off and do their own shit again and come back again. That I don't mind. But if you're constantly being like, it's why I struggle with Meshuggah. In theory, I like Meshuggah, but the fact that they're all playing in different time signatures.
It's like it's impressive, but it's not really something that you can properly listen to.
No.
Like, and that's how I feel about Dream Theater as well. Converge is another band that I never liked that much back in the day.
Yeah.
And Dillinger as well, just couldn't get into it, man. It just didn't have enough chunk for me, but maybe I need to get back and have another listen to it or something.
I think that them kind of bands are definitely bands that they'll have a fan base and they're going to have people that just won't like them. And that's fine, you know. It's not, just because you like hardcore doesn't mean you need to like every single fucking hardcore band.
Oh, no, God, no.
You know, I mean, there's going to be plenty of people that love Converge that don't like Madball.
Yeah.
And that's, Madball for me is the band that got me into this fucking stuff.
Yeah.
Not Converge. I just happened to find Converge later and fell in love with that kind of stuff as well. But,
yeah. And that's right, I think. And it's funny because when I say like, oh yeah, I quite like some Dream Theater stuff, and I'm a massive Rush fan. People think I'm into prog, and I'm really, really not, man. Most prog just goes straight over my head.
Yeah.
Straight over. I have to be in a certain mood for it. But the thing is, the older Dream Theater stuff and almost all of Rush, there's catchiness to it.
Yeah.
There's songs that I can sing along to, and like bits that you can hum and bits that you can tap your feet to. And then when it gets into a complicated bit, it's quite fun to try and play along in that.
Yeah.
But when it's just like, that's the thing with Dillinger that always got me, is just it always just seemed like it was just a mess of fucking riffs, and like none of it ever seemed to make any sense to me musically.
Yeah. I mean, I like early Dillinger. I like the first 2 EPs and the first album when they had the singer that no one seems to know about because everyone knows the singer that came in and replaced him.
Right.
Like the big dude who went around fucking shitting on stage at Reading and stuff like that. Everyone remembers him because of the things he did.
Yeah.
But actually watching live, I used to prefer Dimitri because Dimitri was the exact opposite. While the band was going absolutely nuts around him, he stood stock still and just stared into the centre of the crowd and screamed his lungs out.
Yeah, that's something. There's something quite like that's quite good.
It's
Something
quite
quite
intimidating.
about that.
It's like, oh, this guy's genuine. Like, well, the other guy was a big muscle head and fucking pulling off fucking all the piping in the Astoria and shit like that. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's fun to watch sometimes, but at the same time, the idea of this guy who's just, while everyone else was going crazy around him, just stood there staring into the centre of the crowd and just barking at him,
yeah.
was just like, oh,
It's kind of scary.
yeah, it's kind of off-putting, especially with the kind of music they make. It's not like you say, it's not straightforward.
Yeah,
It's the whole thing looked like chaos, and then there's just one guy stood in the middle of it, like the eye of the storm, just being like, right, and
yeah,
this is
man.
what I do.
Do you ever get this thing like I was discussing this with someone at work? There's a geezer at my work that he's into grindcore and stuff like that. He's a bit older than me, but we actually found out that in the like 90s and stuff we were at some of the same gigs, and
Yeah,
he likes sort of Sick of It All and Madball and Biohazard and stuff, but he's more into like, you know, Carcass, Napalm Death and all that sort of realm,
yeah,
which I like as well, don't get me wrong. And we were talking about what that kind of music does for you. And for me, it calms me right down. People think that sort of stuff would like incite you to be more violent and more crazy. But when I'm angry or feeling violent, and not that I feel violent that often, but when I'm feeling in a certain way, if I stick on some like something by Napalm Death, for example, it's almost like they're shouting, they're doing all of my being angry for me, and I'm just like letting it flow through me.
yeah,
Especially when it's piped directly into your ears. If I'm sitting on a packed out train, for example, and there's some smelly cunt next to me, and someone else's fucking elbow keeps going in my back or whatever, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
And you
yeah.
start
Pack
getting
two
the ump
sort
with
of thing.
everyone, and you
Yeah.
want to start swinging at some point because you're just getting fucking ump and you're sweating, and it's shit. Napalm Death just puts me in this like little bubble, just
Yeah.
like, nah, it's all right, it's all right. They're all getting off soon. Or
It's-
even like, it's all right, they're all going to be dead one day.
I mean, yeah, it's weird because like I'll just I can't leave the house without putting music on in my ear in earphones. Like I have to have music on
Yeah,
when I leave the house, and it will completely depend on my mood what I put on at the time, sort of thing. Like, and not so much like I'm angry, I'm going to listen to this or whatever, but I'll just be like, what do I feel like listening to at the moment? Do I feel like listening to something heavy? Do I want to listen to something more melodic? I'll find something like that, and then I'm kind of in my own little bubble from that point on, regardless what I'm listening to.
yeah.
But I do have to be careful sometimes because I remember going over to see a friend of mine over in West London, and I was on the platform, and I was listening to Fist by New Jersey Bloodline.
Yeah.
And I did almost just want to start spin kicking people off the fucking platform. I was just
Because when it breaks down, like that is one of them ones. Like, oh, do you know what? When Reek died, I just was like, oh fuck, man.
yeah,
And I hadn't listened to NJ Bloodline for a long time, and then obviously I went back and had to listen to it, and it took me back to like whatever it was, the year 2000 or whatever, when I first heard them, and I was in the car listening to it, and that breakdown come on, and then suddenly I was just like punching the steering wheel. I was thinking, fuck, man, thank fuck there's no one around me, or like the police ain't like drawn up next to me, because I was like, I'd be looking like a fucking lunatic.
it's literally one of the ultimate breaks in hardcore. It's just one of them ones that just instantly drops, and you're like, now I want to kill everything in sight. Like, let's just fucking go. And this is something I was talking to with Infraction a few weeks back. Was like, when I think about the bands of the 90s that I consider to be hard bands,
Yeah.
none of them were playing straight up beatdown.
No.
Like, they had the odd beatdown here and there, but the song wasn't constant beatdowns. They weren't playing a beatdown as such.
When we fucking, funny enough, I can't remember who I was talking to about this the other day. One of the things about BDF that I found amusing when we started like rehearsing was like this kind of notion that we were going to have a beatdown in every song. And I just remember being like, kind of a beat down in every song. That's mental. You know what I mean? We just
Now you have a whole genre where that's the whole thing.
yeah,
Like 20 years on, there's literally a whole genre where people will play the same riff and just continuously slow it down across
yeah,
a 3 to 5 minute song.
yeah. It's mad. But I do remember distinctly at the time being like, we're seriously going to have a beat down in every single song. That's fucking nuts. Yeah, yeah. A couple of years later, suddenly it was just fucking normal.
Yeah, I mean, I I love a good beatdown when it's got its place,
Yeah,
you know. I mean, and for me, like, I think some people have this idea to beat down something really slow. My perfect idea of a beatdown when I'll go nuts is like the opening to Beautifully Weak by Kata.
yeah,
Like, it's not particularly slow, it's kind of mid tempo,
yeah, yeah. I know.
but
I know the thing you mean.
it's a really good breakdown right at the start of the song. Everyone goes fucking apeshit for it. When you get the beatdowns with people play now, it's just so slow. I'm like,
Yeah,
I can't dance to that anyway because it's just so slow that I'm just going to stand there and nod my head to it.
yeah,
Even if it's a good beatdown, which in fairness, when you get into that sort of slow pace, I don't find them to be that particularly interesting or good anyway.
yeah. I don't. There's a, and you know, this is where being an old man comes into it. Probably
I'm older than you, bruv, so
a lot of newer stuff just don't float my boat because there's too much of exactly that going on.
yeah.
Actually, though, that being said, there's also another side of new stuff which kind of has gone in the opposite direction as well. So, funny
Yeah.
enough, I've just been listening to Slope, the new Slope video,
Oh, yeah.
and I think they're the bollocks, that band. They're so good.
They're German, aren't they?
Yeah,
Yeah, because you was on that, they were on the What's It tour, you weren't you? The Van
yeah,
Gogh shit.
yeah. That's it. But we actually, I was at Sound of the Revolution and they were playing, but typically me, I fucking got hammered and woke up too late to go and see him.
Was that the last Sound of Rev?
I can't remember, man. I think it was like
2019.
2017, maybe.
Okay.
I think. Or 18. I don't fucking know. It's all just molds into one, doesn't it? And yeah, so I was gutted because I missed them. And there was something else as well that I fucking missed them at as well. So when I found out we were going on tour with him, I was like, fucking finally, I'm going to actually get to see him live. I kind of stumbled on them on Spotify by accident, but I think like I highly rate them, man. And their new stuff's just weirder than the old stuff, and I like
Yeah.
that. They take a lot of influences from like these sort of like early '90s funk metal bands that are like this weird little subgenre that never really took off. I suppose you had Faith No More in the end,
I mean,
and to some extent the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Even,
and I suppose Living Colour.
Yeah, Living Colour was sort of half rock, half that, and then you had like Mordred, who were like a thrash band with funk, and the DJ were like scratching DJ.
I mean, I suppose you guys call Infectious Grooves.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely like that. It all came in. Fucking who else am I thinking? There was loads of like smaller bands like 24/7 Spies, Limbo Maniacs, or on the like much more funky side of it, Freaky Fucking Weirdos were just a strange band. They were German as well.
I was thinking about this earlier actually because a conversation I've been having with Infraction. Obviously, Infraction's got quite a large age range in the band. You've got me at 42, all the way down to Carrie, who's like 25.
Right. Yeah.
And so our influences are quite different.
That's cool though.
It is, but what I find is that a lot of the bands that the younger two like are bands that are obviously influenced or recycling stuff that we knew a bit earlier. And I was thinking about this. When you think about heavy music as a whole, probably started in 1970, thereabouts.
Yeah,
what you'd consider truly heavy music.
Yeah.
So the genre is only about 50 years old. I'm 42. So I've been alive for most of the period of that genre's existence.
Yeah, it's true.
So I've seen most of the sort of things that were happening creatively in the middle of that period. You think from about, I mean, I've always said I didn't get into heavy music till about 92, 93 with like Chaos AD coming out.
Yeah.
But obviously you can go back and listen to older stuff. It's still there. It still exists. So if you look at from heavy music from like 85 to about late 90s, early 2000s, most of the sort of creative shit that's going to be new and never done before is in that period.
Yeah.
And then everything else is just taking them bits and pieces.
I think you're right. I mean, I suppose, but I'm really wary of saying what I'm about to say because I know it's very dependent on the fact that how old I am as well.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't see that much which is new and exciting these days.
No.
And I'm desperate for something new and exciting, to be honest.
I mean, I think
boring, but I don't think that. I just don't think, and not that I really liked that stuff, but early 2000s probably you still had that kind of emo sort of scene where that was a little bit different. That was something that was a bit new.
Yeah.
But yeah, the creativity has definitely sort of died somewhat.
I mean, I know a lot of people of the younger generations are going to say, well, Code Orange are doing something new. But I'm like, but they are essentially doing Nine Inch Nails and Fear Factory meets hardcore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what they're doing is great. And it's, they're presenting that kind of stuff to a new generation.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, they've been massively successful at doing it.
Do you know what? I've not given that a proper listen. Waymer's really into it, I think, and he keeps posting their new tunes and videos and stuff into the Ironed Out chat, and I keep thinking, fucking, I need to check that band out properly. But you know what happens with me is like I'll discover some 80s band that I'd never heard of before, and then I'll be like obsessed with that for a couple of weeks, and I forget to check out the thing that I should have checked out.
I mean, I've said this many times, like I'm a promoter, I should be looking for new bands and stuff like that, but I'm the worst. You have to, like, someone has to recommend me something for about 2 to 3 years before I finally go, yeah, well, I should put, like, Turnstile was a massive example. Simon, like Cy Dito and Matty Barr were banging on about Turnstile for a good 2 years before I went and I checked them out just as the first full length was about to drop.
Oh, wow, yeah.
So they'd been going on about them for like 2 years, and I was just like, yeah, whatever. And for some reason, it was the name Turnstile just put me off. I said, that just sounds shit. The band name just was like, eh. And also, I'm not the biggest Trapped Under Ice fan, so knowing that they were a spin-off from Trapped Under Ice was also like, okay, I don't mind Trapped Under Ice, but it's not something that massively excites me. So,
see, if I'd have known at the time when I first heard them, well, to be honest, I'm a bit like you. If people had been recommending them to me, I would have probably not bothered because I'm just such a contrary prick, right? And I don't even do it to be like cool and like, oh, everybody likes it, so I don't like it. But there's something in my brain that when everyone tells me to check something out, it's almost like my brain's going, don't tell me to check out. Don't tell me what to do. I'm just like, I just don't bother. And then years later, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that band. Everyone loved them back in the day. And I'll listen to it and I'll be like, fuck, that's really good. And then
by the time you check them out, they're split up.
Yeah, but Turnstile, I think, was another band. I can't remember I don't remember anyone telling me about them. I think someone must have posted a video of theirs or something on Facebook, and I think it was a live video of them doing the intro from the second EP.
Yeah.
It might have been like one of them This Is Hardcore videos, and they were doing the intro, and then they went into the big tune from the first tune. And I remember because it sounded so different, and it kept me tuned in. I'm not sure I'd ever heard of them before that. Right. I just think I just happened to catch it, and like I don't really remember, but yeah, and fucking hell, and just seeing the crowd reaction and like the music was different.
Music to me was always very 90s. It's got a very 90s vibe to it, but I like that because I'm a fucking 90s kid.
Yeah, of course.
It's just like, you make something that sounds like that, I'm going to instantly gravitate to it. But it took me so long to check something out. Yeah. Now, doing radio eye stuff, and Richie's like, oh, check this band, check that band out. I'm like, yeah, when I get time. And then ignore it.
No, you're like me, man. I'm like, do I have to? I have to invest my time, listen to... such a shitty attitude. I can't help it though, man.
I mean, there's a couple of bands that Rich has sent to me that I've really got into, like MH Chaos from
Yeah,
Chicago. They're really fucking good, and they do beatdown stuff, but in a very interesting way.
yeah,
So I fell in love with that stuff. But like some of the stuff he sends, like the guys in Radio I send me, I don't ever check out. And
yeah,
it's again, it's not even to be like a dick about it. It's just a case of I've got to invest 10, 15 minutes of my
yeah,
time on an EP that I might get 30 seconds into and be like, what the fuck is this shit?
yeah,
Why are we talking about this band? Click and turn it off.
yeah. I need to. I'm gonna try and like make an effort, man, because I've always been bad at this, and I've always missed bands that ended up being really good. I've probably still missed loads of bands which
Yeah.
I would definitely be into, but I just couldn't give myself that 15 minutes because I was. But there's plenty of times where I could just, where I'm cooking dinner or something, where I could just stick something new on,
Yeah.
and if it's shit, I'll know
Skip
about it because it's just passed me by. And if it's good, then it will catch my attention, and I should do it. I should do that.
We had when I used to work in HMV in Stratford, there was a stockroom guy, and he was like, I'm going to play an album every day. I'm going to go down there and pick an album that I've never heard. No matter what style it is. He went, because at the end of the day, I'm working in a music shop with access to every fucking album
Yeah,
out there.
man.
I was going to pick up one at random from any given section and stick it on and check it out. And I was like, I wish I had that attitude sometimes.
yeah. Yeah, man.
Because like you say, I've probably missed tons and tons of good music that I would genuinely love.
Yeah.
But like, I've just never given it the time of day.
And I'm a lover of music. Like, I fucking love music. It's my whole life, man. All I've done is fucking music, really. And I've got such a shitty attitude to like, listening to new bands, and I always have had such a shitty attitude towards it. I don't really understand it, man. But
It's
nobody's.
weird because when I worked in HMV, especially when I first started working there, because I was like 2021 when I first started working there, like
Yeah,
I had a much better attitude. I wanted to learn everything about stuff because that's also the sort of time I was just properly getting into hardcore. I knew about, I'd been to see Madball and stuff like that, but I'd never thought of it as hardcore. It didn't click in my head
yeah,
that there was a difference between all these different types of heavy music. It was just all heavy music on Roadrunner Records as far as I was concerned. So around that sort of time was when I started to learn the difference and all the rest of it, and then just wanted to grab as much information as I could. So like that's when you started going through the fucking books and finding out the names of the bands and shit like that. So I was pretty good back then, but it sounds like, oh, old man screams at sky, but it is. It's like, you know, I've got to a point where I'm like, I know the bands that I like,
yeah.
and I'm not sure there's any space in my brain for new bands.
I think maybe it's just that kind of, as you mentioned earlier. You know, you've heard a whole couple of decades or a few decades worth of music now, and you've got in-depth kind of experience because you were there at the time of the world as it was when that kind of music was maybe there the first time around. So when you hear it a second time around on its second cycle, and music does go in them cycles, man. I remember being 16 and everyone loved Oasis.
Yeah, I was one of them people.
Yeah, I fucking hated that shit, man.
I love them first two albums.
But you know, the older lot were like, we just sound like the Beatles.
Exactly. You know, and that's the thing. It's like I can't knock people like Carrie and that for liking the stuff they do, which is the second version of something, because he's 25. This is the first time he's got
first version.
Yeah, his first version of it is this.
Yeah.
The bands that he likes that he grew up with when he was like 16, 17 or whatever, that's the first time he'd heard that kind of thing. For us, it might have been the second or third.
Yeah.
You know?
That's it.
So
I'll listen to Electric by the Cult over any Led Zeppelin album. Do you know what I mean? And like arguably Led Zeppelin are the better band, but it weren't my band. Like Cult were my band.
I do find it funny, and this, you know, I'm sure some people are telling me wrong, but when someone says to me my favourite band is, and then they name a band that had split up before they were born, like me saying my favourite band is the Beatles would be weird. Because I don't see how your favourite band can be a band that you never experienced in any capacity as they were existing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure people be like, well, music's subjective, this, that, and the other. But I'm like, unless you were there for a release coming out when you got hyped about the new CD or the new album coming out, or you went to see them live, I don't see how you can have that kind of attachment to a band.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think for me, my favourite band's a weird favourite band, and probably nobody listening to this will have heard of them. But my favourite band is a band called Love Hate, and they were big for about 2 years in between about 1991 and 1993.
I've heard the name. I've never listened to the music.
And it's a weird one, and they're probably not the best band in the world by any stretch, but it was just a moment in time where I was a kid, a really young kid, like 11 or whatever, getting into metal and stuff. And then I heard this live set that they did at Nottingham Rock City on Tommy Vance's Friday Rock Show. And I happened to have recorded it as well. And I just got obsessed by it. I thought it was the intro was this like bombastic fucking drums and guitars like squealing, and it was cool as fuck. Like, I just wanted to see that band. And then I got the album, and then I bunked off school when the second album come out so I could get it like straight away.
Yeah.
Hung around the record shop, and thankfully my friend Diane, even we're friends now, but like back then she was the girl in the record shop, and she was just like, shouldn't you be at school? And I was like, I'm waiting for the new Love Hate album. She's like, so am I. So she fucking just let me hang around until the album came in. But it was like that, and it's just one of them things that just carries with you for the rest of your life, sort of thing. It's a weird one to try and explain to people, because when I show people Love Hate, they're like, oh, that's all right. But that's about it.
I think it's because obviously, like, most people that probably know you from the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
So when, like, I know you as like, yeah, I know you from the hardcore scene, but I also know more about you than that. And it's like a lot of the stuff you listen to is 80s rock music.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So it's not a massive surprise that you're like, to me, that something you're one of your favourite bands is something outside of the hardcore thing. It's like, yeah, of course it is. Like, this is a guy who listens to fucking Kiss on a regular basis.
No, actually, like, Kiss were never one of my biggest bands. I like their stuff, but I've never been like a Kiss fan, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And you know, they're cool, but like, they're not for me as something that I've properly invested in. Like, I love some of their stuff, but can take and leave a lot of their stuff as well.
So what was it for you, like Guns N' Roses, Def Leppard, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, man. I mean, I love Def Leppard.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck who laughs at that. I love Def Leppard. All right? Just going to say it right now. And yeah, man, that whole decade, I really should have been born 10 years earlier with, and I should have been skinny, and I should not have succumbed to male pattern baldness in my early 20s. There was a whole lot of shit going against me as far as being an 80s rock star.
Primarily being born too late.
Born too late. Definitely never been skinny. Definitely never had hair. Well, since I was about 20, 21.
But most of them old school rockers, they could have got away with a wig and you'd have never known anyway.
True.
Fucking great big massive hair out there, fucking.
Yeah, I think Kiss wear wigs, funny enough, as well.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they're proper old men now as well, aren't they?
Oh yeah, I'm sure I've seen pictures of.
There's a reason they went back into makeup.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. You would though, wouldn't you? Funny enough, Alice Cooper though, the older he gets, the better Alice Cooper looks as a character.
Yeah, because he looks closer to a dead man.
Yeah, fucking great.
It's like Iggy. It's like Iggy Pop. The older he gets, the more he looks like his face.
Oh man, you seen that meme? Jennifer Aniston. This is what Jennifer Aniston.
But it's like, if you look at like a cover of an old Stooges album, he looks the same age as what he is now. Like, his face just looks old. He's just grown into it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fucked up, isn't it, man? I suppose that's what was he, alcoholic, wasn't he?
Fuck knows. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he was everything.
Yeah, probably was, wasn't he?
I mean, there's that generation of rock stars, that sort of 70s, 80s, where how half of them are still alive.
Oh, yeah.
Like, how Ozzy is still alive is fucking beyond me.
I know that's ridiculous. Ozzy's ridiculous. Like the stories you hear about him, you just think the fact that that fucker's in his 70s now
Yep.
and fully alive. I mean, it's brilliant because I love Ozzy, but fucking hell,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah.
Just how? Remember
There's no
sitting
way he should be
in
alive.
the 90s, man, thinking he's not got long left.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it's
Like,
fucked up, man. I watched the documentary, funny enough, about Ozfest. It was. Do you ever see the Decline of Western Civilization documentaries?
I've got them. I've seen the first one. I've got them all on fucking hard drive somewhere. I just don't get around to watching them.
Yeah, they're quite suited to me actually. Like because obviously the first ones, they're like the West Coast punk stuff,
Yeah.
the punk hardcore stuff, and then the second one is like the Sunset Strip
And the
rock
third
scene.
one's like thrash stuff, isn't it?
I think the third one is like late 90s, I think, and it's
Okay.
a punk scene. I can't remember. It's a little bit compared to the previous two. It's kind of you know,
It's like The Godfather 3.
yeah, it's like Back to the Future 3,
Yeah.
that
I
kind of
can't,
thing.
I've never seen Back to the Future.
What?
I've never seen any of the Back to the Future films.
Fucking
It's one of the holes in my film.
are you trying not to? I mean, they're on telly all the fucking time. I mean, you must be actively avoiding them.
I've never seen Back to the Future. I've never seen E.T.
See, I'm not even a film geezer, but I've seen Back to the Future and E.T. Fuck, that's mind blowing, man.
I've never seen Goonies in entirety. I've seen Goonies in bits, but I've never sat and watched the Goonies.
Gino's favourite movie.
Is it? I'd have thought that'd have been like Thomas the Tank Engine, a movie.
No, we were doing a podcast and it kind of ended shit. So we never bothered putting it out. But we were talking about movies, and me and Wayne we were talking about 80s movies, and we were talking about Goonies, and me and Wayne were like, "Yeah, man, the Goonies, that was so much fun." And Lewis went, "I fucking hate that movie." And me and Wayne were like, "What? What are you talking about? You can't say that."
It's funny because I just watched a documentary called In Search of Last Action Heroes,
Right.
and it covers 80s and 90s action films. The guys did two documentaries. They did that and In Search of Darkness, which covers 80s horror films.
Okay.
And really good documentaries. But like going back through the action heroes one, I was sitting there going like, fuck me, like they really don't make R-rated action movies anymore, do they?
Yeah, man.
Like, because I remember like it was the night of your 40th birthday, wasn't it? And we went to see Terminator 1 and 2
Yes. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
back to back.
Yeah.
And like, I hadn't watched the Terminator 1 and 2 in years because they're two films that I grew up with and watched so much at the time that I can almost like close my eyes and watch them back in my head anyway. Like I know them so well.
Yeah.
But that was a great night. I actually sitting in the cinema and watching them two amazing fucking 80s, well,
Yeah.
one's technically 90s films back to back. But yeah, sitting all that and I was like, they don't make films like this now. Like the big action heroes now, like The Rock, has never done an R-rated action film.
Yeah, and you know what? The Rock would be the perfect guy to play a horrible cunt that goes around killing everyone in
Yeah.
the movie, man. He would be great at it.
Him and Vin Diesel. I mean, Vin Diesel did
Yeah,
Pitch
and
Black. Did that Pitch Black, which is like an alien sci-fi thing. The first one's pretty fucking nasty.
I remember that being quite a good movie, but I haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah, it's the first of the Riddick films that he did. But no one knew what Riddick was at the time. It was just like a one-off little indie film.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was really fucking good. The other two are shit. But yeah, you're like Rock is someone you'd think now is like that's your next person from Stallone, from Arnie,
Yeah.
doing them kind of films, and he kind of is because he does like the Fast and the Furious stuff and all the rest of it. But they're not them violent type action films that we were used to, or we grew up on.
I think the only thing you can like take from it is that there's just not enough money in those movies these days, and maybe audiences have changed because these major studios, they know their audience, they know from their research and all that kind of stuff, like exactly who's buying it, and they won't take risks. So the only time you're going to get those movies coming out, I think, is going to be like your sort of independents taking a risk.
This is it. It's like back in the day in the 80s, they did take risks. They
Yeah.
would buy a script off of an unknown writer and then put. And bear in mind, Arnold Schwarzenegger was an unknown at one point. When he did Conan, when he did Terminator, like no one, and also he has a really fucking hard to pronounce name.
And to be fair, for Hollywood, he's not got a Hollywood accent, man.
No,
I mean, that voice was either going to flop hard or be what it is.
I mean, there's a reason that the first couple of films he's in, he barely speaks.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't say a lot in Conan, doesn't say fuck all in Terminator, pretty much.
But when he does talk in Terminator, because he's
an
got that
impact.
accent, it sounds weirdly robotic
Yeah,
to the English speaker's ear. Like that Austrian accent is just like the way he talks just sounds robotic. So it suits the fucking role.
yeah.
The T, man.
And obviously Conan the Barbarian is like a dude that would be from like a sort of Austrian Germanic area anyway. So
Yeah.
having that accent works for the character. But then you get like Raw Deal, Red Heat and stuff like. Well, again, Red Heat is playing a Russian, so
Was it? I've not seen that.
Red Heat is like a Russian cop who comes over to the States to catch a
Oh, okay.
Russian mafia rapist type character.
I think I know a lot of people have split opinions about Terminator 2, but
What?
for the
Who has
people,
a split opinion about Terminator 2? Terminator 3, yes, I'd understand. Terminator 2 is a fucking near perfect film.
well, no, I see a lot of people who love the original Terminator over Terminator 2. For me, I could get why they might say that. Terminator 2 for me though was, it was just the coolest fucking movie when it came out, man. And I was at exactly the age that it was like
Aimed at, yeah.
I probably shouldn't have been watching a film because it was an 18, wasn't it? And I was.
No, it's only a 15.
Is it?
Terminator 2 is only a 15.
Okay. Oh, Terminator 1 was the 18.
Terminator 1's an 18. Yeah.
But I obviously watched them both when I was like 11. So there's something still a little bit like, we probably shouldn't be watching this, but I am. And there was tits in it and fucking blood and guts and people getting shot and that. So that was fucking cool. But just Arnie just going, come with me if you want to live. It's just the fucking best, man.
It's weird because like I probably am in the group that you said where like, I prefer 1 to 2.
Yeah.
That's not to say that 2 is a bad film. I think 2 is a damn near perfect film. But they are different films. Very different. Like for me, and this is a comparison that people don't think of a lot of the time, I think the first film is more like a slasher film.
Yeah, and that makes sense to say that.
He's very much a Jason or a Michael Myers just relentlessly hunting this person down. Like
the second does have that aspect of it as well, though, don't it? Because in the first one, he was like an unstoppable killing machine. And then suddenly you've got the unstoppable killing machine protecting you, but then you've got an even more unstoppable killing machine coming after you.
Yeah.
So it kind of still does work on the principle of the two movies is still pretty similar.
And what I found out about Terminator 2 the other day, actually watching this documentary, was the woman who plays John Connor's stepmom, who the T-1000 eventually becomes, and he's got the
That's fuck, man.
So that woman is the same girl who plays Vasquez in Aliens.
Oh, okay.
Which is just like, because Vasquez obviously looks Mexican. Well, she's supposed to be a Mexican character.
Yeah.
With the massive fucking gun in Aliens. But she's actually browned up. They actually like tanned her face and to make her look more. Yeah, she's Jewish.
Fucking hell, man. Didn't know that.
But again, yeah, back then you could get away with it. If someone found that out now about that film, fuck me, that'd be like, they'd be done. It's just like, you'd be done. But back in like 86 when Aliens came out, yeah, just slap some fucking fake tan on her.
I just put a bit of brown on her, it'd be fine.
Yeah, that's literally what they did. They just slapped some fake tan on her, call her Vasquez, and there you go, there's our Mexican character. What?
What do you mean you don't believe she's Mexican? I'll just have a scene where she's eating a burrito or something.
That's the thing, as kids watching Aliens, like, you would never have known the difference.
Nah.
Like, I mean, I watched Aliens when it first came out. I was, fucking 8, 9 when that film came out?
Yeah.
It's like 86.
I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen any of them films. It's ridiculous. Don't remember much about any of them.
But that's the reason I don't never watched Back to the Future and E.T. because by the time when them films came out, I was watching slasher films
Right.
and the high-rated Terminator films, stuff like that, and Cobra and back films like that. So I couldn't get any excitement out of a kids' film at that point because I was like, well, why would I watch that when I'm watching someone be fucking gutted across the screen?
Yeah, it's true. And Back to the Future, I first saw in the cinema when I was actually 5.
Right, yeah.
That was the first movie I ever went to see. And
Okay.
obviously, I didn't go on my own.
Just strolled up to the local cinema.
Just popped up and I was like, yeah, can I have a child ticket? But I loved it when I saw it, but it was years until I saw it again, until it started being on the telly. But
Yeah.
back in them days, it was like 2 or 3 years before you actually would see the movie on TV.
Yeah, because it'd go through like, it'd be cinema, then it'd be about a year before it came out on rental.
Yeah.
Then about another year, 6 months to a year before you could buy the VHS of it.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years after that before it hit TV.
And that was such a massive success, that movie. It was probably, all of that stuff was probably rinsed out even further. So
yeah.
I was probably about 9 or 10 the next time I saw it.
I mean, the first film I saw at the cinema was Ghostbusters.
Yeah, quality.
Which is, that's the only sort of film of that kind and that sort of age range of that era that I probably see as a kid. Like,
that's a great movie.
I had to go back as an adult to watch Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I had to go back I think I was in my late teens the first time I saw Star Wars. Because my old man, like, they'd be on TV all the time. But my old man was like, I ain't watching that shit. Load of bollocks.
Yeah.
He's like, but we'll watch a James Bond film.
Yeah.
And I was like, as an adult, I'm like, but that was a load of bollocks as well.
Yeah. I know, but fucking hell, man. The generations before us, their tastes in movies are questionable.
My dad was never a big movie guy. Mum is more so, but then Mum's love of films is similar to mine in a lot of ways. Like, she loves her 80s action films. Like, her favourite films are like Die Hard and Beverly Hills Cops.
Right.
Like, Dad was more of a westerns guy.
I can't fucking watch westerns, man.
And war films.
Yeah. No, I don't. I can't really watch war films either.
Like, you stick the Battle of Britain on, and my dad would just glue himself to the sofa, and that would have been it.
Really?
I grew up watching a lot of them films. I know most of them films because that's what he would watch. Like, he'd watch them all the time.
I think the only war film that I've watched is that one. What's that movie? You know, the huge fucking meme that was doing the rounds a few years back, where Hitler's in his bunker, and then you have like,
the one that they did, like Ray Dust did a version of.
Yeah, like everyone ended up doing it. That was a fucking good movie, man. I like that.
I've never seen it. I think I've got it on VHS, DVD somewhere, but I've never actually sat and watched it.
That was a fucking cool movie, man. And the actually when Morbid Angel put that one album out, which had all the really weird shit on it. David Vincent's last stand with Morbid Angel before he became a country singer.
Oh, right, yeah.
Killer code. Yeah. That shit. And there's a really good one of them with Hitler finding out that Morbid Angel had done songs with that. Reading him the lyrics, and Hitler just starts getting mad. Like,
I didn't realise that with Morbid Angel till fairly recently, but all their albums are released in alphabetical order.
Yeah.
Like, the first album is A, Annihilation, whatever. The second album begins with B, C. I never realised that till fairly recently. Someone pointed it out to me.
So what have you got? Right, let's see if I can do it. Not that I even own all of these albums, but Altars of Madness,
yeah,
Blessed of the Sick, Covenant, Domination. I'm falling down already.
So I'm bringing up Discogs on my phone. Okay.
What was E? E was where I started losing interest. You can tell.
Very much so.
Oh, shit. And then you had...
E was Entangled in Chaos.
Entangled in Chaos.
Then Formula's Fatal to the Flesh.
And then...
G's a well-known one.
No, you're going to have to... I can't remember now.
Gateways to Annihilation.
Okay, well, of course it fucking is. I thought I would have done better in this. I've got to be honest with you.
Then Heretic. Right, I'm going to try and pronounce this. Illad Divinium Insanus.
Yeah, that's the terrible one.
That's the one with all the crazy shit on it, isn't it?
Yeah, it has got some like decent death metal tunes on it as well. But
Then Juvenalia and Kingdom's Disdain. So they've only got as far as K so far.
it's not bad.
Yeah, most bands would be like, we got the B.
Yeah, most hardcore bands they'd be ended on A.
Yeah.
Face it.
But yeah, I mean, go through the sort of our friends' bands. How many of them have a full length out? Much less more than one.
That's going to get less and less these days, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is discussion.
Kind of dying, man.
Discussion we was having. I think we was having it on some big chat thing we was doing a little while ago. But it's like, Iron Out might be one of the last bands to put out a full length.
Yeah,
where it's actually going to mean anything.
It's funny when I said like I think full lengths are dying, and then I just thought I've just put out a full length.
It's a conversation we've had a lot with Infraction because I do have a whole concept stuff written out for a full length.
Yeah,
like I'm very much someone that plans way down the line, sort of thing. So I have the full length, sort of the titles of the songs, what they're about, all ready to go.
Yeah,
and the order they sit in. So if we get to that point, which would hopefully be we're writing another EP now, and we're also writing tracks for a split with someone.
Yeah,
and then it'll be after that. But we're writing the EP and the split together just because why would you fuck about? You're going to record them pretty much all at the same time anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Like we've got 4 tracks for an EP and 2 tracks for a split. It's only 6 tracks. You may as well just write it all in one go.
Yeah.
And decide which 2 tracks go to the split. But after that, it'll be sort of bogged down and start working on a full length. But I appreciate the fact
you got a concept for it. Do you mean it's going to be like a conceptualized album, like not necessarily
kind of, yeah.
Album, but...
No, kind of like it's very much like. Obviously, I'm in a band with Adam, who is the guitarist for Hellbent, and the Hellbent album is a concept album.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've read the 2. There's only 2 songs they put the actual storyline out for. And I've read them and I was like, you know what? That's a really cool idea. Even if you don't publish a story, if you have it written out in your head, it can help just make sure the album follows like a flow.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's what I've done. I've written a whole sci-fi thing for all but the last couple of songs.
See, I like that.
Whether that ever goes out into the world is another thing entirely.
Yeah.
But it will inform the artwork. It will inform the actual lyrics on the songs and give me a guide of where I'm going. It keeps in my head where I'm going with the song so I can keep a structure to the album.
Yeah. No, I like that, man. I like the idea of that, honestly. That's probably one of the situations where an album will be like appropriate.
Yeah.
A full length album will be appropriate. And maybe it'll be for a little while we're going to go through a period where, all right, nobody puts out albums out, but back in the day they used to put out double and triple albums. The old prog bands have put out fucking these ginormous fucking albums of like 2 hours worth of music and stuff.
Even fucking like Wu-Tang Clan.
Yeah.
Wu-Tang Forever was at one point the highest selling double album of all time.
So maybe the modern version of the double fucking album or whatever will just be the full length. And if you put out a full length, it's just like a special, it's like a big deal sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think that's the way it's going to go.
I think what I was saying when we were having that chat before was the fact that I think with Ironed Out, you'd reached a certain point where the next logical step was a full length.
I think you got to have the material for it. There's too many full lengths that I hear where there's so much filler.
Yeah.
And it spoils it. And it's a hard thing to say when you're actually in the band because you're biased to fuck. But I don't think there's much filler on what we did. And I think that's why we was all happy to put out it as a full length thing rather than just like a trimmed down thing. But if we'd written 10 songs, for example, and 4 of them were a bit dull, I would personally would rather have just put out 6
Yeah.
and just
I mean, I
fuck
think
off.
the thing that I can say about the Ironed Out album is the fact that lyrically it's surprising compared to what had gone out on the 2 EPs. Like it takes a lot of different twists and turns lyrically that you wasn't expecting if you only knew you guys from the 2 EPs that had gone out before. Musically, it covers a lot of ground.
Yeah,
Like it all sounds like Ironed Out, but it doesn't all sound the same.
yeah. You got to have a bit of progression in you.
Yeah, and it does sound like you've experimented here and now. Like
Yeah,
you've gone, okay, we're doing an album. We're going to expand our sound a little bit, and we're going to try this, and we're going to try that,
yeah,
without ever straying too far from what Ironed Out is.
yeah,
So, I think in your case, it's something that was a logical standpoint to go for next, and you actually put out a well-structured album.
yeah. And that's
It's not a collection of songs. It's not just a collection of singles that have just been jammed together. It has a flow to it where you can go, okay, I can see the progression of the songs and how this makes sense in a bigger, broader sense.
yeah, definitely. I think especially when we were looking at the flow of the album, when we were discussing track listing and stuff, we didn't want to, we really wanted it to be a kind of a ride rather than just a fucking, constant.
Yeah.
Because I think a good album takes you to different places. It takes you up and down and
The other thing you find with a lot of bands is that they do an album, but it's the first, like, they front load it. So the first 4 tracks are fucking banging, and then it starts to get mediocre into shit as it goes along.
A lot of albums that do that.
Oh, so many. And especially if they're bigger bands. Like, a big band example of that is Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
Foo Fighters, on a lot of their albums, the first 2 or 3 tracks, straight up bangers. And then it starts to slide until they get to their final track, and suddenly the final track's a really good song to end the album on, but everything in between was a bit like, that could have been anything.
Yeah. Oh, you got to have a good finisher, ain't you?
Yeah. I'm a big believer in, like, the final track should be something epic.
Yeah.
Like,
I tend to agree with that as well. If you're going to do a weird left field fucking track, last is where to put it.
Yeah, I mean...
Sorry, mate. We was half experimenting. We was half thinking, I wrote this song, and it was just me singing over piano, and it was echoey and weird sounding.
Oh, like Crowbar. That Crowbar track, Touch the Hand of God.
I don't actually know that one, but yeah, it was obviously nothing like Ironed Out at all.
Yeah.
And when I put it to the rest of them, it was kind of like, yeah, that sounds like a good closing track. Nobody's going to be expecting that. But then when we actually listened to the album, it sort of started becoming apparent. It's like, it's not going to fit. It's not going to fit there. Like, it's not going to work. But I think the idea was cool, though, just to have like a hardcore album full of all these different influences and then just end it on this piano ballad, man.
Yeah, I just think the closing track should be something, especially if, like I say, obviously what I'm thinking of is like some sort of conceptual thing. That final track has to be like a final statement kind of thing to that album.
Yeah.
It kind of has to wrap up either the story or sum up the point you've been making across it or whatever you've been doing with it. So this is more story-based, so it needs to be like a final chapter. Whereas like if I was trying to, like, I didn't even consciously do this with the first Infraction EP, but realised after what I'd done was that all the first Infraction tracks are all me attacking the problems that I saw within the hardcore scene.
Yeah.
And the name Infraction for the band just happened by accident to fall in line with what that was, because it was all like, that's an infraction against this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh, that actually has worked out quite well, yeah?
Yeah.
So one of them sort of weird happenings. But and then so the second EP, I was like, right, so I've dealt with attacking everyone else. So the second EP is going to be more of an internal EP.
Attacking yourself?
Yeah, more about looking at like my shit and dealing with my shit sort of thing.
Yeah.
Third one will then be a kind of, I want to try and do the 3 EPs as like a trilogy. So I've done the external stuff, I've done the internal stuff, and then the third one will be kind of trying to wrap up
in
that sort of thing. So the 3 EPs can then be played back to back. And that's our first couple of years, and then the full length comes after that.
And I suppose they act like almost like a suite of EPs, if you know what I mean. Then
Yeah, that's what I'd like it to do. So that, like, maybe at some point, if we wanted to put out like a physical release of it, you could put M3 on one like release and go, well, that's.
I like that, man. I like that idea. I wasn't aware that was obviously what you was doing with it, but it's fucking cool, actually.
It wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened. And then as I realised it was happening, I was like, I'm just going to fucking run with that.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes you don't realise what you're doing until you've halfway done it.
No. I mean, I haven't realised. There's been songs that I've written lyrics to and then realised that some of the metaphors I've used actually all sync up. It was never intentional and I never thought about it as I was writing it. But then I've gone, oh, yeah, that all quite well syncs up without even thinking about it.
Yeah. That's fucking cool, man. I like it.
But yeah, I mean, lyrics are a nightmare. I really like worry about lyrics these days.
It's hard. I'm a bad lyric writer, really bad. Unless it's for the fucking AC/DC rock band that we were doing.
Yeah.
Because then those lyrics were just funny. Like, for some reason, those lyrics just flow. But like, when I'm trying to tackle serious things, it's difficult to tackle something serious and not be cheesy or, you know, cover old ground, or just even as small as like getting into the trap of like trying to fit in a rhyme.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things catch you out, don't they? And then I've got a terrible attention span, so I might get a verse in and think, oh, that's great. Right, now the second verse, oh, there's a fly. Do you know what I mean? And then I'm just done, and then that'd be it.
I have a nasty habit. I'll write what I think is going to be the first verse. And I'll sit there and go, yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. And then end up finding that's actually the better second verse. And I've got to now work backwards and refine the first verse to lead into it. I'm just like, for fuck's sake. Why did I do that? Why did I move it? And I'm constantly playing around, switching lines back and forth.
I've actually been writing some other stuff. Just I figured that I'm going to do on my own. So there's a couple of songs that I've written for Ironed Out over the years.
Yeah.
And one we actually recorded during the In These End sessions. And it just didn't come out right. And it's not really fitting with the new album either. And I sort of thought to myself, like, I started writing a couple of other tunes. And I thought, well, I want the piano thing that I was mentioning just now and this other tune, like, I want them to go somewhere and to be something because I quite like them.
Yeah.
And then I've written one which is like a sort of straight up sort of poppy, punky, like Wild Artsy almost sounding tune.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Wild Arts.
So like proper like rock and roll type stuff.
Almost, yeah. And then I've written this other thing which starts off sort of punk sounding and then morphs into this weird electronic thing. And I just thought, do you know what? I should just do a little 6-track EP or something.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to write about for that, and I've got no fucking idea. If I've got to write something serious, it's going to take me like, don't expect to hear them songs. They might still come out as fucking. I might end up just putting them out as music and just inviting people to write their own lyrics.
I mean, took me 2 years to write the Proven demo.
Yeah,
because I was in panic. Like, I was just like, I'd just come off of War Christ, and I was like, I don't know if I have anything left to say.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm now working with the two guitarists from Hellbent Die Hard, which is my favourite UK hardcore band of all time. So I don't want to fuck up their new music.
Yeah.
I'm just like, imagine if I'm what makes this shit. Like, you don't want to be that person that's like,
yeah,
the music's fantastic, and then I come along with some really bait lyrics, and it's just like, that's what made it shit. That's why no one cared about it. It's actually why in the end I end up reaching out to Louis and being like, will you please fucking like, come on, I need a second vocalist, because I'm running out of things to say, and I'm also fucking panicking about writing over this music.
Like, come out good enough.
Yeah, I mean, in the end it was a pretty decent demo. But it was just like, I'm always worried that I'm going to be the one that lets the band down.
Yeah, I think that's natural though, isn't it? And especially like if you're up front for the band, you're the person that people are focusing on for the most part.
Yeah, I think there's also the fact with being for vocalists is that point of like, with the music, no one knows who wrote what.
Yeah.
They see the 4 or 5 guys up there playing the music. They know no one knows whether, like, say for infraction, like no one knows if Adam wrote this riff or Hannah wrote that riff or Carrie wrote something or if it started with a drum beat from Tom. No one knows how the band functioned to get that point. But they know the lyrics come from me.
Yeah.
So if the lyrics are shit and what make the band shit, then I'm automatically the one to blame. It's just like I don't want to put myself in that position where I'm like, oh fuck, I fucked that up. So I'm really careful about it.
Yeah. I think it is gonna like you, it's gonna take me ages to try and write lyrics for this thing because I don't wanna do something where I love the music and then me being a sort of like below average lyric writer ruins it all. So it's going to have to be a very slow, gradual process. So I expect to see something from me up on Bandcamp in about 2026.
I will be out of the pandemic by then. You'll be able to play it live as well.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Don't. But yeah, no, I've always been into like really melodic stuff and like Wild Hearts. I love them because of their melodies. And also the fact that they're just a band that don't stop at any kind of barriers. They'll do any old sort of style of music, depending on what they feel like doing. But I also really like in the last sort of 10 years or so, I've got into Husker Du, and before that I was into Sugar.
Right, yeah.
And quite recently, probably in the last year, Frank over in Holland's got me in Leatherface.
Okay.
I never listened to Leatherface before about a year ago, and fuck me, they're good. And again, that's like really melodic, without sounding trite. You know what I mean? It's melodic. It's melody without sort of like the nice happy resolutions to the chords.
Yeah, it's funny because like when you talk about Wild Hearts, the band of that era that I think of is Therapy. Who
I love Therapy of that era as well.
That sort of Nurse, Troublegum,
yeah,
Infernal Love, when it was just the three of them.
I didn't get into Infernal Love that much, but Nurse and Troublegum was both like blinding albums.
Yeah, I fucking love them. I love them albums.
Like,
and that to me, like, especially when you mention Sugar. Because Sugar, to me, I know it's obviously Bob Mould and Husker Du are influential to Therapy, but I always think of Sugar sounding somewhat like Therapy.
I suppose, yeah. Sugar's a weird band, man, because when you actually listen to them, they kind of just sound, on the face of it, they just sound like college rock.
Yeah.
But they're just so good. Like the fucking Copper Blue album's so fucking good.
Oh, Copper Blues. The first time I heard that was I was working in HMV, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds like this is where that sounds like Therapy." And I was like, "Oh, this is Bob Mould from Husker Du. That's probably where you're getting it from because such an influence on each other, sort of thing." I was like, "Oh wow, fucking hell." It's funny when you listen to Husker Du because you go and listen to like that first album, Land Speed Record.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's just like nothing like anything.
No, that's just your standard early 80s hardcore, really, isn't it? Like,
well, Land Speed Record has that name for a fucking reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that album tears along, and then you get Candy Apple Grey.
Yeah. That Candy Apple Grey, it's one of the albums that I've not listened to that much. Zen Arcade and
Zen Arcade's really good.
They Rise In are the ones that I really check, and Metal thingy, what's it called? The short one.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
we're old, we're terrible with our memories.
I've got a fucking useless memory, man.
But yeah, I mean, like, Husker Du, again, amazing shit, some of their stuff.
Yeah. And also I've like the period where I listened to them the most was when I was living out in Holland, and things weren't going that well. So like I got obsessed with that band, and they were sort of like they sort of lifted me up a little bit. You know, when I was on the train going to the bar job, or like on the bus going to the cleaning job at 6 in the fucking morning that I was doing.
Yeah.
I was listening to that, and that was kind of like keeping the spirits up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to Jawbox?
No, don't know Jawbox.
Jawbox, I think you'd like them.
I'll have to look them up.
They were initially on Discord, but they put out one album on Warner Brothers,
Okay,
and that's really fucking good. I think if you like things like therapy and stuff like that, you'd probably really dig like Jawbox.
cool. Yeah, I'll have a listen. But yeah, that's basically, to cut a long story short, what this new thing that I'm doing is like a no fixed no fixed genre, but keeping the melody in there as much as possible.
Yeah,
Just want to do something really, really melodic, and I think I'm the only person that wants to do that in the whole of the hardcore scene.
it's the thing. Like, I love that kind of music, but I can't sing. So, well, it's the sort of band I'd love to do. Like, I don't have a melodic voice at all, so I'd be like,
Yeah, but Frankie from Leatherface, man.
yeah, but I can't hold a melody. Like, I don't even know where the notes are.
Yeah, all right. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, to be honest with you. It'd be kind of funny if like, because I'm planning on like the AC/DC sounding thing. I've got enough songs to put an album out, and I'm going to put an album out
Yeah,
of that band, whether we play gigs or not. I want to put them songs out because they're good, man. Like,
I'd probably put you on a radio on Readyfest.
would ya?
You could be the equivalent of the break band.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Do you know what is funny, man? Like, some really unexpected people. When I put that demo out, when we put that demo out in like 2016 or whatever, some really unexpected people messaged me and were like, "That's so good. I love that shit." I was like, "Really?" I know. I was speaking to Adam Frakes.
Have you put that up on Spotify?
Nah,
You should.
I'm not bothered. Well, I think when I do the album, I'm not saying if I do the album. When I do the album, then I'm going to do it. I'm going to record it at home anyway.
Yeah.
And I think I'll put electronic drums on it. But then if I can get Ray to go into a studio somewhere and do real drums instead,
Yeah.
then more the better. I'm going to have to go into a real studio to do the singing anyway.
Yeah.
So, but over the course of a period of time, I'm sure we'll get it done. But when that comes out, yeah, that'll go on Spotify definitely. And I will try and get a band together. Hopefully Ray will still be up for it. But if not, funny enough, Duncan, who I was in ambush with,
Oh yeah.
come up to me and he was like, "I fucking love that band. Do you need a drummer?" And I was like, "Oh, mate, Ray's doing it, sorry." He's like, "Here, if you ever need a replacement drummer, I'll do it." So like, do you know what I mean? Hopefully it shouldn't be too hard to get the band together. Jake Marlowe was going to do second guitars for it.
Oh really?
And I see from his Instagram recently, he's improving. He's getting on with his guitar playing now.
Jake Marlowe from Idle Hands.
Yeah.
Because obviously we know two Jake Marlows and it gets confusing.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. But yeah, Jake and I share a mutual love of 80s rock music.
Oh god, yeah. Like the amount of times I see fucking Jake post up 80s rock stuff and I'm just like,
Mate. Me and him was at the LA Guns gig at the O2 Academy a year or two back. And when they played the Ballad of Jane, me and him were just standing there like basking in the glory. It was fucking brilliant.
it's weird that 80s rock stuff never got me.
Nah, do you know what? For me, when I was a little kid and you had the chart show and stuff like that on telly, like, I remember being 7 when 1987 come out, the Whitesnake album.
Yeah.
And it had David Coverdale prancing around with his long hair with the women or the woman, whatever, in his Jaguar. And the guitar, I just always loved guitar music.
Yeah.
The moment I heard it, I loved guitar music, distorted guitar music. And I just remember seeing that video and thinking, I just want to be like him. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because it just was the coolest shit ever. And then a couple of years later, I recorded Raw Power, which is a program that used to be on Channel 3 on ITV in the early hours of the morning. And I just saw it was called Raw Power, and I thought, oh, maybe that's a heavy metal program. I'll record it. And it was.
Yeah.
And it opens up with Dave Lee Roth doing Yankee Rose. I was like, this is the shit. And then the second song was Bomber by Motorhead, which blew my tiny mind, man.
Yeah, especially if like you weren't used to like how that really fast stuff like that.
I'd never heard anything that fast before. And it was a live version, so it was even faster. And, you know, it's just Lemmy standing on stage like this ugly bearded geezer who looked
Yeah.
like he didn't give a fuck. I was like, fuck yes, that's a bit of me. And then just that whole episode was just like almost shaped my musical taste.
Yeah.
And I think it's when you're a little kid and whatever you take to heart as being cool when you're a kid, it stays with you. It just stays with you
Yeah. I
forever.
mean, I remember, I've said this a few times, like, I didn't hear contemporary music until I went to secondary school. So, like, in this house, we used to listen, like, Dad would have classical, jazz, and the odd bit of, like, easy listening shit on the radio.
Right.
That'd be it. Like, the most contemporary music I probably heard was, like, Simon and Garfunkel.
I think I'd have killed myself.
But I didn't know any different. Like, that was all the music I ever heard. Occasionally, if I went to someone's birthday parties, you do as a kid or whatever.
Yeah.
So on this street when I grew up, it was predominantly white, but we had a couple of Jamaican families.
Yeah.
And they would rent out the community hall for the birthdays.
Yeah.
And the community hall was on our street. So we'd go down there for the birthdays and they would play like ska. So you'd get like the specials and stuff like that playing a bit of reggae.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah.
And so that was as close to contemporary music as I got until I went to secondary school. I went to secondary school in a predominantly black neighborhood, and NWA had come out the year before, straight out of Compton. So the kids that I was at school with, their elder brothers had bought straight out of Compton.
Yeah.
The younger kids were now listening to it. So I turned up at school in that school in 1990, and that was kind of my introduction to hip hop. It was like,
yeah,
this is what we're all listening to. And I'd be like, what the fuck is that? Like, I'd never heard anything. And the only thing I could equate it to was the fact that it had this kind of rhythms of jazz. Like, there's lots of like them sort of.
Yeah, that must have sounded like a different world to you. But
Completely.
Jesus, what an introduction as well, man.
Yeah. So
a fucking killer, pinnacle album to like get introduced to hip hop from.
And to any contemporary music.
Yeah, man.
Like, not even just hip hop. That was my introduction to contemporary music.
Yeah.
And then that raw power program you're talking about.
Yeah.
I must have woke up whatever time one night and turned that on. I didn't know nothing about metal, but they had a special episode about Sepultura, and it was Chaos AD was about to release.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And they had the video. I think it's the Territory. It's like a black and white video.
Yes.
But I had no idea what this was, and I still didn't know what it was until about 6 to 12 months later, when Terry Haynes played Chaos AD, the album.
Yeah.
And I was just like, there's something about this. And for some reason, the name Sepultura had stuck in my head. And that sound of his voice, which again, if you've not listened to anything outside of hip hop, that voice is something completely fucking alien.
Yeah, definitely.
There was something about it just clicked in my head. I was like, I know what this is.
Yeah.
And it all started to come together. But my first thing with Sepultura and any heavy music was like, this is fucking hilarious. What the?
Oh man, really?
Yeah, like I almost took the piss out of it because it was just like it didn't make any sense to me.
Oh man.
And then because I was hearing it around that lot so often, it just sort of sunk in. And suddenly I found myself. We would get drunk as kids, go running down the streets in Beckton, screaming at the top of our lungs, Chaos AD! just yelling it down the street sort of thing. There'd be like me, Ainsley, and a couple of other friends that never got into hardcore or whatever, never stuck around, but like we'd just be screaming that out at the top of our lungs. And then like Machine Head came out, and suddenly like we'd be all stood around at a place called the Pyramids in Beckton. And like, this is when I first kind of met Terry Simmons as well. And you just see fuck 'em all to block and stuff like that. And it'd just be just a load of fucking rowdy kids just screaming their heads off sort of thing. The locals must have fucking hated us.
Okay, definitely. I'm sure we did similar things, but that program, Raw Power, got me into so much stuff. It was responsible for a lot of my early like musical tastes. And when I got into, when you said it was a Sepultura special, I was like, fuck man, I've got that on tape. But it weren't that one. There was another one probably 2 years before that, and it was stuff from their set in Rock in Rio or something. And
was that what became the Arise DVD, the Under Pale Grey Skies?
No, that was in Spain. That was in Barcelona, that one. The video was from Rock in Rio, and it sounded terrible, man. Like the sound quality was just like camcorder sound.
Yeah.
But I remember hearing it and being like, holy fuck, man, that is raw. And then they had the video for Inner Self.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there watching that for the first time. And because it was so like amateur footage as well, for some reason there was something about it that I was just instantly drawn, because it wasn't glossy and it weren't
No.
anything. It was just like dirty and
because they're
not
such a obviously
good.
they weren't from a rich country. They were a poor bunch of kids from a poor country.
Yeah.
So everything about like their early stuff is raw as fuck.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, and when I first saw that video, I just thought, fuck. It blew my mind, man.
Yeah.
I saved up my pocket money. When Arise come out, I was 11.
Wow.
And I saved my pocket money for weeks.
Yeah.
And you couldn't go to the local record shop. So I had to get my mum and dad to take me to Tower Records in Piccadilly so I could get the tape.
Yeah.
That's fucking mad, isn't it, when you think about it?
There's things like that where I wish I'd got into heavy music earlier, because like my favourite Sepultura album is Beneath the Remains.
Yeah.
That is I think it is a flawless thrash album.
I can never choose between that and Arise, honestly.
Yeah. And then I think Chaos AD is almost a perfect hardcore album.
Yeah.
Like, how many bands have ripped off stuff from Chaos AD that are hardcore bands?
Oh, mate, yeah. They influenced so much with that album.
That album's nuts.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was never a massive fan of... Well, no, that's a lie. I was. When it came out, I loved Chaos AD.
Yeah.
Over the years since then, it's definitely not least favourite. Roots is awful. Man, I hate that album. And that's funny, actually. It's another one I was going to listen. It's one of them ones I'm like, do you know what? I'm not 16 anymore. Let me go back as an adult and listen to Roots. And I got about 3 songs in and I had to hit stop. I was like, I hate it. It just brought about the same rage that it brought about when I was 16. And me and my mates was at this party. And my mate was like, I got the new Sepultura album. And he put it on. And bearing in mind, in all the papers and that, they'd be going, yeah, we're going back to our roots with this album. Because Chaos AD was a little bit of a departure.
Yeah.
And we were like, wicked. They're doing an album that sounds like Arise. Yes. And then...
They were going back to a different set of roots.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of us was just sitting around this house, just looking at each other like, it's the end. Like, Sepultura was the coolest band in the world for a little while back there. And then,
when you get to a song like Ratamahata and you're like, what? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the end for us.
I mean, because I went to see their last show with Max, Brixton Academy.
Yeah.
It was like December the 6th or something.
Was that the one with Strife? Or was that after that?
Ooh, I think it was after that. Strife was like the 95, I think, and this was 96. But yeah, and like they played quite a bit of Roots at that show because it was the album they were promoting, and it was kind of disappointing.
Yeah,
because I would have loved like you to play like a chunk of Chaos AD, Arise, Beneath the Remains, and I'd have been happy, sort of thing.
We did you ever go to the like the ill-fated record signing at midnight at whatever it was, HMV, and you had a queue of people queuing up to get their album signed or meet the band or whatever. I can't remember the exact thing of it, but there ended up being a little bit of a riot.
No, I wasn't at that one.
They were ill. And I think there was supposed to be an album signing, and then they were playing the LA2.
I went to the Machine Head signing at HMV.
I went to that, I think.
Which was I think it was the second album they come over and did a signing for.
Nah, this was Burn My Eyes because it was before they did their gig at the Astoria a day later, I think. It was a day or something like that. But Sepultura was supposed to do, I think they were doing an album signing and then they were going to do a gig or something like that. But Max was ill. He had the flu or something like that. And there was this long line of people, kids getting progressively more and more drunk, myself included. And then nothing happened. So bottles started flying and fucking, it started getting a bit rioty. I remember that being quite a good laugh.
Because wasn't there...
Now, if I saw it, I'd think, you fucking wankers. But at the time, I remember it being a good laugh. But the point I was going to make is that gig, because they rescheduled it a few days later, and when they were playing the Root stuff, it was all kids down the front. What we thought... I was 16. but
Yeah.
it was like 14-year-olds pogoing down the front.
Yeah.
And it was like a change of guard. It was like so like, now I look back, it was like so symbolic because every time they played something off a Rise or Beneath the Remains or Schizophrenia, all of the older kids would rush down the front and all of the pogo kids would like run away and there'd be a full on pit. And then they'd be like, and then Max would go, "This one's of our new album, Roots." And then instantly you just got 50 people just turn their back and walk to the bar again. And then like pogoing kids were placing them. It was fucking most bizarre gig I've ever been to. It was like a proper, standing on stage for that gig must have been a trip, man. Like,
I mean, funny enough, because if you think about it, a few years later after Max left, there would have been the legendary Hatebreed first UK show.
yeah, man.
Which was supporting Sepultura, obviously the new version of Sepultura, and that was a sight to behold.
Yeah, man, I remember that very well. I actually didn't have a ticket, and I rocked up just before, about 10 minutes before Hatebreed were due on.
Yeah.
And there was a tout outside, and he sold me a ticket for £5, and I thought it was like the best £5 I've ever spent in my life, I think.
Did you know Hatebreed at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's so clearly people that had no clue who the fuck Hatebreed were.
I remember that gig. I actually remember, I think me and McBoo were standing next to each other just watching the carnage. I was never much of a dancer. I've never had that much fucking energy, I've got to be honest with you. And I've got no coordination. So usually whenever I've danced, it's just like swinging my arms around and knocking people over. And when I just remember standing there just watching it kick off and just kind of giggling, man. It was so funny. And you could just see the shockwaves around the pit. And I just remember looking at the pit and like being like, "Oh, there's John." There's like, I knew everyone in it.
Yeah.
It was just like us lot had come to just be dickheads for half an hour.
It was weird because I didn't really know Hatebreed that much at all at that point, but I'd gone there specifically kind of see Sepultura because I hadn't seen them with the new singer. And I was like, well, I'm not a big fan of the band, but I'd like to see how he does. They're one of my favourite bands historically. So and I bumped into Terry Haynes and probably Simmons. And they were like, "Oh, come down the front for this next band." Because I think there was a British band on before, One Dice.
Yeah, I weren't in the venue when they were on.
Who were like a really bad version of a British Pantera. And I fucking hate Pantera anyway.
I remember the name.
So I'd kind of stood at the back for that and just kind of chilled out and be like, "Oh, you know, not too bad, whatever it is, blah, blah, blah." And then they were like, "I'll come down the front for this." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So I went down the front. And then there was this weird thing where everyone wasn't looking at the stage, they were all looking into the crowd. And suddenly it was just like, there was almost like a 1, 2, 3, bang.
Yeah.
Like, it was almost like a countdown. And it was just knock out the nearest fucker to you. Just fucking move them out the way sort of thing.
Yeah. I remember just watching all these different fights kicking off at various different like points of the edge of the pit.
Yeah.
Where metal fans just never seen that before, man. Everyone was looking at it like, what is going on in there?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. Like, I honestly look at that. Like I said, I didn't really know at that time. I knew who the LBU were, but I didn't know many of the people involved in it. I knew Terry Haynes and Terry Simmons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because of being round here. And so that to me is very much like, I look at that as almost like the coming out party of the LBU. This is like their introduction to the mainstream metal group.
Yeah, and I wonder they didn't like us.
Because like you're like LBU bands have been playing small local venues and stuff like that for a while by that point. You know, I mean, if you went to the Verge or you went to somewhere like that or the Red Eye, you'd have seen that on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
This was just like, we're going into a big venue and we're just going to decimate the entire fucking place.
Yeah, pretty much, man.
And that was pretty much like the way it went. And it was just like, to the average metal guy, which I would have considered myself as at that point, just the average metal kid.
Yeah.
But I just happened to have friends in this lot who's like, in some ways that helped me out because it was like, well, they're going to watch my back because I know Ainsley, I know Simmons.
Yeah.
So I'm good to go in that sense. And I just remember, I can't remember if it was Simmons or Ainsley grabbed hold and he was like, "Are you fucking in or what?" And I was just like, I guess I'm in. I just turned around, looked at the nearest guy in a leather jacket and just went, bang! Just like, fuck it. If this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing. Sort of.
Oh, mate.
I was just like, and the thing is, like, I'm pretty sure it was Ainsley. And it's not like, Ainsley's a big lad.
Yeah.
It's not like if he goes to me, "Are you in or what?" I'm going to be like, "No, fuck you, go fuck yourself." Like, because he'd have probably just picked me up and thrown me across the fucking pit anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you was in, whether you liked it or not, most likely.
Yeah, so it was just like, all right, if this is what we're doing. I literally turned around, I saw some guy in a leather jacket behind me who his eyes were wide open anyway. He was like, and I just thought, "You'll do." And that was that sort of thing. I was like, guess I'm now one of these fucking violent morons. Fine, let's go.
Yeah.
But then it was like, that was the time when, that was one of the last shows I went to before I started fucking off and going travelling for quite a bit.
Right.
So then I didn't see any of you. The first biggish show I went to when I came back into the scene properly was the Halloween show at TJ's.
Oh, fuck me.
That was my first kind of show coming back. And I didn't come down with you lot. I went on a train on my own because I didn't know you lot. So I didn't come on the coach with you lot. I got on a train over there myself. And obviously, my first show back is, if you're not from London, get off the dance floor.
Oh, mate.
What? And I was like, "Well, I'm from London. Fuck you."
And then there was that row outside, wasn't there?
Mate, there wasn't a single set when there wasn't a fight.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single set when there wasn't a fight at that show. And I've seen it come up a couple of times recently, that show on like Facebook, and that it's been mentioned, because I think like Where Radio I've been putting out them scene reports.
Yeah.
That we've been doing. One of the guys from Newport did one for us. And it got mentioned in the comments about like, because I think someone said about the fact that it was a Nazi had been taken out, which is more than fucking likely.
Yeah.
But then this guy was like, "No, I was the guy that got punched in the face, and I don't like being called a Nazi because I'm fucking not." It was just, and I think I put in there, was like, not being funny, mate. Lots of people got punched in the face during that show.
It might not have just been you.
Yeah, I was going to say, the chances are one of the people might have been a Nazi, but lots of people got hit during that show.
Yeah. Fuck me, that was a funny gig.
But yeah, that was my show back, and then I got back on the train on the way back. And obviously, again, I'm on my own, so there's like, you lot have all piled back on your coach or stayed overnight, where the fuck you lot did. I got on my return train on the way home, I was just sitting there being like, what the fuck was that?
But then your leaving experience was Hatebreed at the Astoria.
Yeah.
Where it just kicked off mad, and then your return was the TJ show where...
Like I say, I went to a couple of shows in between, because I went to the another one where a big fight kicked off, which was the East Pack Resistance show that Knuckle Dust played. And Hatebreed played it, and there was the issue between Simmons and Black Mike.
I don't know if I was at that or not.
And there was a big massive... So I was at that, and again, I didn't really know most of the people, but I knew Simmons was involved in a fight, so I went over and sort of got involved.
Yeah.
Because it's like someone I've known since he was a little kid, sort of thing. So I was like, of course I'm going to jump in. And I remember coming outside the venue, and he was just like, "Do you see what I've got to get involved in now?" Like, now I'm a fucking rock star. You see what happens? I was just like, fucking hell, tell.
The Don, mate. The Don.
Yeah, I love that guy. I mean, I used to get really annoyed with him. When he was a little kid, I couldn't deal with him. I was like, because I was young as well, and I don't have much in the way of patience now. Back then, I was probably even worse, and like he was just this infuriating ball of energy that was just chaos wherever it went, and it was just like, I can't deal with you.
I'd probably been the same, man, because I've never been a ball of energy ever in my life. I've always been like chilled, and I'm fine now with it. Obviously, as an adult, I can deal with balls of energy.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of the time that's by drinking. Yeah, that
I
would have
think
been
one of the first times I
difficult
actually
to deal with.
one of the first times I actually spoke to you properly was when it was Lauren's birthday thing, and we was at the LA2, like the club night thing.
Yes, I remember that.
It
Yep,
was
yep.
Lauren EBD's birthday, and some vividly remember one thing was like some guy kept going up to her and trying to chat to her constantly, and she was getting annoyed with it. And all of a sudden, because she was there in front of me, there was the guy, then there was me, and then you were behind me.
Yeah.
And suddenly this arm reached over me, grabbed him by the collar, and literally flung him up the stairs. And that was you. And I was just like, what the fuck? What just happened?
I don't remember doing that.
And I just looked around, I was like, oh, hello, how you doing? He was like, oh, bruv. And that's how we got it chatting, sort of thing. It's just this arm come over my shoulder, grab someone by the fucking scruff of the neck. I was like, yoink. It's like, fucking hell, fair enough.
Yeah, no, I don't remember that.
Yeah, but that was the first time I met you properly. It was at like her birthday thing at the Astoria.
I do. I vaguely remember that night.
Yeah, because that was when she was. I think that's when we were still in Deathblow together before War Christ. That would have been before War Christ.
Yes, I do vaguely.
Because that's we played one show with Deathblow, which was down in Southend.
Yeah.
We played them. What was the place under the hotel? There was like a venue by the seafront that was under like the basement of a hotel.
Minerva, was it? No.
No, it wasn't Minerva. It was the something hotel, and you basically just played. There was like a little side gate thing that went downstairs underneath the hotel.
I think I know the place you mean. I can't think of the name of it though.
Yeah, but we played one show there, and that was the end of that band pretty quickly.
That's the ultimate in hardcore. Not even one EP, like just one gig.
I think we'd recorded like a demo that I don't even know if we ever released. There's like 4 tracks.
Yeah.
That we'd recorded at my mate's house, and then we did that one show, and that was it. We just couldn't write. Like we went back to write some stuff, and there was just nothing coming out of us. It was like, fuck it off.
That situation, man. You can't go in the rehearsal room forever and just fucking not come up with anything.
Yeah,
should have put out a statement saying like, thanks for the support over these past few months, guys. It's been really great. But we've just done everything we set out to achieve in hardcore. And the memories will live on.
Same with No Survivors, though. We did the first EP thing and then went to go back into the studio after playing a couple of shows and write stuff, and just nothing was coming of it.
Yeah.
That eventually morphed into War Christ, don't get me wrong, but...
The band I was telling you about, Pure Negative, the metal band, the really technical thrash sort of thing, that's one of the reasons why we kind of called it quits, because we were trying to write new stuff and it just weren't happening. And it was getting like there was a lot of tension because it was just like we were getting angry that we weren't writing new stuff.
Yeah.
And there was this sort of need felt to like get a few new songs to play live when we'd only literally put out an album. We should have just been playing them fucking songs.
Yeah.
But some of them are quite old. And we apparently felt this need to make a load of new stuff when in reality we should have just been like, oh fuck it, let's just get a tour or something under our belts and or this fucking album. But it's difficult when you hit that wall. It's very difficult to get out of it again.
I think for me, it's the problem I have with, and probably what you guys were finding without realizing maybe, is the fact that I get bored of my own songs real quick.
I never got bored of them songs.
Yeah.
In that band, I know what you're saying though. Yeah, but in that band, I never got bored of them songs because they were so fucking hard to play. So it was like doing a musical exercise every time we played some of them tunes. So it was like quite entertaining just being on stage. Like I had my hands full sort of thing, literally. But yeah, I think it was more just that kind of pressure that, you know, we were just like, we've got to have new stuff. We've got to keep going and progressing. And
the opposite end of that is obviously, and this is very typical of bands within our sort of group of friends, is you don't release anything for 4, 5, 6 years.
Prowler.
Well, Bund them out, put 2 songs out in like a 10-year gap. 50
Yeah.
Caliber haven't written a new song in about a decade, sort of thing.
Do you know what, man?
And I love all them bands and I love the people involved in them bands, but this
Yeah.
is when it becomes. Like, I want to put them bands on shows, but it's difficult to be able to warrant it because they're not
Yeah.
technically they're not active.
Yeah.
This is like when we were talking the other day over that chat sort of thing. One of the things I was saying is the fact that I'd love to put nothing but like my friends' bands on, but if my friends' band haven't put out a new release or written a new song in 6 years, 6 to 10 years, some of the kids that are coming to shows now wouldn't have even been old enough to go to shows when their last release came out.
Yeah.
So how do I get them kids to pay money to see the bands?
It's like fucking Maiden still touring off Number of the Beast in 1997 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I'd love to hear some new Caliber, man. I would love to hear some new Caliber. But Terry, I hope Terry won't mind me saying it, but he's written some like non-Caliber stuff that I've heard
Yeah.
recent years, and it's fucking brilliant. It's so fucking good, and I wish he would do it.
Yeah.
I wish he would do it.
It's I mean, Blue said to me like there's stuff that Terry has written for Caliber, and then been like everyone's on it, and he's just like, I don't rate it anymore or whatever, and it just sort of disappears. Like he's such a sort of perfectionist on that sort of stuff
Yeah,
that it ends up becoming like he likes it for a bit when he writes it, and then it kind of I'm not interested in that anymore, and
yeah.
it goes away, sort of thing. It's one of the reasons why, because I get like that. As I said, I get bored of my own songs, so that's why I like to churn them out relatively quickly if I can.
Yeah, because if you start analysing everything, then you're never going to get anything done.
No, I mean, like you must have found this doing your Ironed Out album. There's a certain point when the song is as complete as it's going to get. Even if you're not 100% happy with it, you've got to be like, this song either has to be ready now, or
I think if you over perfect some songs, they lose their spontaneous sound anyway. The art of perfection sometimes with music, if you perfect a song too much, then it loses its character, and sometimes it needs the flaws in there. It needs the bits that you might not necessarily be happy with, but they're bits that give it the soul. So you need to keep them in. Yeah, so I agree. I mean, you need to get to a point and just say, right, this is it. This is fine.
Yeah, this is done. Otherwise, I'm going to keep pulling it apart. And
yeah.
I mean, we're doing it with a song at the moment. Like we wrote the music for a song at one point, and I listened to it and I was like, no, we can do better.
Yeah.
Like this is like, bear in mind, I'm not a musician, so I have no input on the music a lot of the time. But I was like, I literally went back to it. I'd listened to it for 2 weeks. Like, it's not good enough. Like,
Still got the energy, or it ain't.
Yeah, I was like, I know as a band we can do better than that.
Yeah.
So it got scrapped. Wrote a new version of it. I was like, I'm quite happy with that. Wrote a bunch of lyrics for it, and then sent it back. And then Hannah was like, actually, the riff on the verse I can make better than that. I don't think it's good enough now. So she stripped it off, and now she's working on a new riff.
Yeah.
So like, it's that process of like, but how many times are you going to do that before you just go, fuck it, that's it, done? Because if you keep doing it over and over again, you lose what the song was.
You'll lose the energy. You lose the energy. But the thing is, I think part of the art of writing a song as well is if you're getting to a point where you feel like you could do something better, but then you're not coming up with anything. Because if you've got the inspiration and you go and you have that moment, and for me, like when I find the perfect riff for a situation, I have like a feeling in my chest of like, yeah, that's it, that's the one. Like I get a bit excited, I get a rush, knowing that I've made that thing and I've got the piece of the puzzle, sort of thing. I think if you end up in a situation where you're not getting that rush anymore, then that's time to have just stopped already.
Yeah.
What you're doing at that point is just dismantling and then putting back together a song. To draw a partridge analogy, it's like dismantling a trouser press and then putting it back together, then dismantling it again, you're always going to miss a screw or a washer out, and it's never going to be quite as good.
Yeah.
I've got to get a partridge analogy in there at some point.
I get really worried about, like, am I overthinking stuff? Properly over worried about it.
Yeah.
But I also know that if I don't pay some attention to it, I'm just going to go bleh onto the page.
Yeah.
And it'll just be out of dog shit.
It's that finding the balance in it. It's finding the balance where it becomes a chore over that sort of feeling inspired versus feeling like you're just wading through bollocks and not really coming out with any answers.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I look at people like you and Adam and Hannah and that are guitarists who can just pick up a guitar and go, this is the sound in my head. And I'm just like, you fuckers, because I wish I could do that. I'll spend like 4 or 5 hours fucking around with the guitar and finally find something that's a riff that I'm like, okay, that I quite like that. But even then, all I do is I record that riff, like play it like for fucking 8 bars or whatever.
Yeah.
And then I send that to them and go, look, I like this, but you are guitarists. You actually understand music. You fucking make that better or do whatever it is.
Do whatever you do with it.
I mean, like, we're lucky in the sense that Adam seems to be a person who goes home from work, sits in front of his computer, programs a drum beat, plays a guitar riff over it, and goes, "Yeah, that do."
I see. I'm not prolific at all. In fact, I haven't written a riff in months.
Oh, it's a fucking nightmare. Like he'll listen to something like an Enemy Mind. That Enemy Mind EP comes out, and he's like, "I really like that. I wonder if I can make a version of that."
Yeah.
And like he'll do his version, which won't sound like Enemy Mind by the time he's finished with it, but he'll do his version of an Enemy Mind couple of tracks. And so there's this bank of tracks in his computer of all unused instrumentals.
Oh wow. Yeah, I never.
We just go, what have you got? And he'll play a few bits and we'll go, I like that riff. I like that riff. I like that riff. Find a way of making that work. And then Hannah will be like, oh, I've got a bit that'll work in there and this, that, and that. And she'll come up with a couple of riffs and thread it all together. And suddenly you've got an infraction song. You're like, oh. And the rest of us are just sitting there going, like, well, that was easy.
That's really, it's really good to have that kind of like, that bank of like riffs and stuff. Because I'll go through periods where I'll write loads of riffs and then I'll go through periods like at the moment I've written nothing for months.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking nothing. I pick up the guitar and nothing comes out at the moment. It's frustrating, but I know it will end at some point. Yeah. And then I'll go for another period of being creative again. I just wish I could like do that all the time.
Do you play regularly though? Like even if you've got nothing in your head to write, do you just pick up the guitar and just play?
I will pick up the guitar, but if nothing comes out of any significance within about 2 or 3 minutes, I'll put it back down again.
Right.
Because I know I'm onto a losing battle.
Yeah.
I have a terrible attention span as well. So unless inspiration strikes me really fucking quick, it ain't happening.
Yeah.
And I wish I weren't like that. Honestly, I wish I weren't like that. But
I'm very similar because I have like 5 or 6 go-to riffs that I've played that I've never used in anything. I just play them because they're in my head, and then I see where that takes me to, if that takes me anywhere else or gets me to something else. But like I've just got a new toy on my computer, which is the Neural DSP plugin.
Oh, yeah.
And that has kind of bizarrely, it's just a fucking amp sim, but it's inspired me to write stuff that I would never have thought of writing before because there's little tricks and things I can do on it that I couldn't do before. So, I can like the only way to make some of them sounds would be to crank the amp that's in the hallway up to fucking like 10 and blow the house up, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas on my computer, I can just plug my headphones in like this, crank it up as loud as I want, and now I can get the feedback effects and things like that I'm looking for and stuff.
Yeah.
But okay.
New sounds can do that, man. Like just a new sound, and then you're like, oh, I can do this with this.
Yeah.
And then it takes you to a little like creative space, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to do that, man. I've got a fucking amp sitting here which has got a million sounds locked up in it, and I don't know what's wrong with me. Honestly, half the time I fucking just don't do it.
What have you got? You got like a Kemper type thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a Kemper. And there's a fucking online like bank of pretty much any amp sound you could ever want. And then it's got loads of effects in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I just need to do it. Honestly, I just need to fucking do it. I don't know. I don't know why I don't.
Because like the neural DSP thing I got was the Gojira one they released recently, and it's got like a couple of pedals on there, like a delay pedal, a reverb pedal, and a chorus pedal.
Yeah.
And it's got 3 amp heads, like a clean, a mid, and a sort of really distorted one.
Yeah.
I've just been fucking around with that because I've never had pedals, like I've never had access to like a chorus pedal and stuff like that before. So I've just been able to play around and fuck around with that and see what it can do.
Yeah.
Has really made me go, oh, I'm going to sit down with a guitar for 4 or 5 hours, even though I've normally got a really bad fucking attention span.
Yeah.
Like suddenly I'm plugging in and being like, oh, 4 or 5 hours just fucking around, and then if anything does stick, I'm like, okay, I'll record a video of that quickly.
Funny enough, you know the little thing on the latest the Ironed Out album. There's a little like 30-second clip of
Yeah,
a song. It's like all weird backwards guitars and shit.
yeah,
It was just me sitting at my computer one night, just fucking around,
yeah.
and then I played it. And I was like, that sounds fucking cool. I just thought, right, well, I'm gonna write, and then I wrote a song around it. And it was like,
Yeah, exactly.
just from fucking around with different sounds.
Just pissing around sometimes, and you get like a couple of good riffs out of it. And it's like I say, for me, I'm not a guitarist, so I can't. I'm the sort of person that I can compose an idea for a song, and I can say to you that riff, this riff, and that fits together in that order.
Yeah.
And I can say to you, oh no, you need to pick the pace up or slow the pace down. And I can do that sort of thing, but I can't actually play what's in my head some of the times. So I'll come up with a couple of riffs and go, right, that's riff 1, that's riff 2. Write some more riffs around it, and then I will piece it together and work with the rest of the band. Be like, that should go there, that should go there, that should go there.
Yeah.
And if I've got an idea for what the song's going to be about, I'll be like, I need a section that does this for this many bars, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to fucking fit in the idea that I've got, sort of thing.
That's still a good way of being creative. I'll tell you who is, like, in my writing experience, had the weirdest writing brain was Frank.
Really? I thought you were going to say Andy BDF.
No, I mean, Andy was very, very unique in his style, which is brilliant, because he's one of them guitar players that when he plays, it's like, well, that's Andy.
Yeah, straight away.
That plays like that. You know what's funny as well is after we did that BDF reunion in 2013, me, Andy, and Ali carried on rehearsing, and we started writing all these weird fucking tunes, man. They were not BDF tunes, but when I've got all the recordings of them, and when I hear them, I'm just like, it just sounds like BDF playing not BDF songs. It's just a really weird thing. It's just like the three of us just sound, but I think that's a lot of that's down to Andy. But yeah, Frank would come out with riffs, and he'd be saying it, like, because he would write them on bass as well, and he'd be doing this sort of like dun, 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 dun. And me and Willem, the drummer, would be like, all right, so it's dun, and we'd play what we thought he'd just said, and he was like, no, it's got to go on like a little bit longer than that. And then we'd be like, what, like a beat? Okay, we'll put it 1 beat longer. And Frank's like, no, it's not right. In his head, and he played the same thing every time. In his head must be working on some like weird time signature.
Right, yeah.
That other human beings don't work on. It was really, really difficult to get this fucking thing right, man. And it shouldn't have been that difficult, because the actual riff was about 3 different chords. It weren't hard. But I just remember, yeah, he's got a very unique writing style, and it all happens in his head.
Yeah.
But it's great as well, man. That second Kaiho Road demo was weird as fuck, and I really liked it.
I don't know which one I've got. I've got the first one, I think.
Is it? Well, they've both got cats on the front cover, so that's not an. Is it a white cover or a black cover?
I think it's a white cover.
White cover was the first one, I think. Yeah. Oh, I can't remember now. I didn't even play on it because I'd moved back by then.
Mm.
But it was cool. The second one got weird, and he's doing a new band now, Fearmonger.
Okay, I'll have to check that out.
Doing a demo, yeah. He's just he's good at the angry stuff.
Yeah.
And he is good, but I think if I lived in the same country as Frank, I'd be trying to convince him to do a Leatherface type band as well. Seems as though he's the guy that got me into him. And there's another band called Guns and Wankers, which he's turned me onto as well.
Someone posted that today. I saw someone post that. I think it was in the No Echo.
Oh, okay, I'm not in.
page, or one of them sort of American hardcore pages. I
Yeah,
saw someone post it.
again, like really not what you'd think a band with that name would be, but they're again quite like melodic punk.
Because again, you assume that's going to be a Guns N' Roses like piss take.
Yeah,
Like that's
no,
literally when I saw it, I was like, it's got to be that. And
yeah,
then I realised the page I was looking at, I was like, oh, that would be odd to post in there. So,
yeah, yeah. Did you actually listen to the tune though?
no, I didn't. I'll go back to it if you're saying it's weird that like, I've never heard of them before. I'm literally like twice in a day, like it's popped up now, so I have to go back and
Yeah,
check it out.
yeah. Honestly, no, go back and have a listen, man. That like he only literally it was only a couple of months back that he showed me, and I was like, fuck. I'd heard the name years and years ago, but never bothered to check them out because I thought they were like a joke band.
Yeah.
No, fuck, they're good. They're really good.
There's something else on that page today that actually I posted into the Radio group because I just found it hilarious. Someone had put a thing like, who is it? Which bands can you forgive for going from an indie label to a major and then back to an indie? And I was just like, I can forgive any of them because they were just trying to get their music out there, mate.
Yeah,
Like, it's such a strange thing with hardcore, where I don't think it's as prevalent with our age group so much now. But there was a weird thing at one point where it's like, if someone got to a major, they'd sold out, and then if they came crawling back to the like the indie labels, and it's like they went to the major because there was probably someone saying, "We can help you make a living off your music."
yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least, you'd be thinking, "Cool, I might to get and like to go and see the world. I might like be able to live off my music for a little while."
Yeah, isn't
And
that kind of what we'd all like to do?
how much fun would that be? Jesus fucking Christ! Like, I can understand like the major label hate because let's face it, they're vampires. But
Not to attack the band for that though.
nah, but as a band member, if I got offered a major label contract, I'd be like, oh fuck, I'd be thinking about it.
I don't even think I'd think about it. I'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Because even if that album flops, as regards the major label is concerned, they're going to boot you off the label in the next release.
Yeah,
Like, for example, Cave-In, it happened to them. They put out the first couple of albums are kind of hardcore. Then they did that album, Jupiter, which was kind of weird prog rock type stuff. And off the back of that, they got picked up for a major. It didn't sell. It sold a fair few copies, but for what a major's looking for, nowhere near enough.
yeah.
And then they went back to like hardcore indie labels type stuff.
They were too obscure sounding to be on a major, man. That band.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, they really needed to have changed their sound up a little bit. I've seen them actually, weirdly enough, twice. I've seen them in the last sort of 2 or 3 years,
Yeah.
and it's not for me.
No,
It's just not for me. But yeah, I would never say that was a major label sounding band.
I think it basically happened because Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters loved them.
Right.
Took them on tour with him, with Foo Fighters. And so majors went, oh, well, if Dave Grohl's into them, they must be good. And it's like, yeah, but Dave Grohl comes from a hardcore background. Let's remember that.
Dave Grohl's into a lot of different stuff, man.
Yeah.
Not just a pop artist.
But yeah, like if you're in a band like that and it's like, okay, come to a major and it's, yeah, I'm going to get to make enough money to live off music for a couple of years.
Yeah, mate.
And even if like I say, even if like the next album's got to go out on a smaller label because like the major's gone, oh, fuck you, you didn't sell enough records.
Yeah.
That's not on me. That's on the label treating me like a cunt. Like,
I suppose the inference if you sign with a major label is that you're going to change your sound to be more commercially acceptable.
viable. Yeah.
And the only time that you can really like have artistic integrity in that situation is if that's what you were doing anyway because you just wanted to do that, because that's where your music was, just your creativity was going in that direction anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just going to change it up for the sake of it, then yeah, that is selling out, as try as saying sell out is. But I don't see no point in making art if you know what I mean. It's something a bit sacred. Like I don't want to.
Like, I'm not going to make music to suit a record label. I'm going to make the music I make, and if the record label wants to put it out, then
yes,
great.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's that thing of like, I mean, so many bands have been called. At this point, I consider Roadrunner a major label.
Yeah, probably are, aren't they now?
Because they are owned by EMI. Like their stuff gets distributed by EMI anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go to a major, and if you consider Roadrunner a major, like I think if you're going to change your sound for them, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, it makes no sense for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna build myself up to the point where the label's paying attention to me with this sound, but then because that's not commercial enough for the label, I'm going to completely flip that on its head
Yeah.
just to make sure we sell enough records to stay on the major.
And that's where bands just become shadows of themselves, is when they're just,
You're just trying to please a label
yeah,
because the label needs you to sell like 1 million copies.
yeah.
Which, let's be honest, in this day and age, that's never going to happen. You're never going to sell 1 million physical copies.
No.
Like,
But you still get your other sources of income and that, and it's a different business these days. It's all merch and shit like that.
this is it. They started these 360-degree deals, as they call them,
Yeah.
where the label takes a chunk out of everything: your ticket sales, your merch, the lot.
Just don't sound right to me, that.
No, that sounds like, yeah, I'm avoiding that like the fucking plague. But it's because they know they're not going to get any money out of music sales.
Yeah. That's true, yeah. Music sales is a dead fucking business now.
I mean, I've always said, like, for the most part, unless we've spent a lot of money on producing an album, I'd just give the music away for free. Because Spotify, you're essentially giving it away for free anyway.
Yeah.
Because you've got to have like thousands of streams for it to make you a couple of pence.
Yeah.
So if you're putting it on Spotify, you're essentially giving it away for free anyway. If you're going to put it on Bandcamp, you might as well put it at free if it's on Spotify as well, and only charge if people want to buy a physical.
Yeah.
Like, and the only way they're going to buy a physical this day and age, I think, is vinyl.
Oh yeah, definitely. And vinyl, I don't know if anyone actually plays vinyl, but it's nice to have that physical.
So I do, because it's normally the only format I physically buy anymore.
Yeah. And the same, there's no need to buy CDs anymore. CDs are dead now. There's just no need.
I don't have a way to. Well, I have my PS4. That's the only way I could play a CD.
Yeah.
Like, the computer I'm using for this doesn't have a CD drive.
Is the PS5, has that actually got a physical? Has that got a drive still for?
There's two versions, one with and one without.
Yeah, because I was going to say, like, I would be surprised if consoles are still going to be doing physical formats.
They're both pushing for digital.
Yeah.
Only.
Yeah.
But the gamers are always going to have a bit of pushback on that, because there's a lot of games where you play them through once and that's it. You're never going to touch them again. Yeah. At which point, people want to be able to sell them on the second-hand market and trade them for stuff and things like that. You can't do that with digital. So
yeah,
unless like PSN are going to offer like a digital trading system set up where you go, okay, well, I finished this game, but I don't want anything more to do with it. I can trade it against the next new release or whatever.
Yeah, I suppose you could do it on a point system or something.
Yeah, unless PSN introduce something like that, there's always going to be people that want that physical thing so they can just take it down to CEX or whatever and trade it in.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 50-50. Like, I have a couple of physical games, but a lot of the stuff, just for convenience, like, I can just sit in my house and go, I want to buy that, and download it straight to the console.
Yeah.
And I haven't got to keep changing the discs around and all the rest of it. The problem is the digital copies are more expensive than the physical.
Oh, really? I've got games on my PC which seem to me to be like cheaper than what they would be if I'd have gone out and bought them. But then, mate, I don't really play games, to be honest. I've got a terrible, like I've said a couple of times already, I've got a fucking abysmal attention span, and like once I get to the first difficult bit, I start giving up. Like, I bought that Doom game a few years back.
Oh, Doom 2016.
Yeah,
that's amazing,
mate. I started playing it, and I was like, "Fucking yes, mate! This is amazing." And I got to a bit that I couldn't get past, and I tried for probably 20 minutes, and that was the last time I played it, and that was a good 2 years ago.
Because the sequel came out in last year. The second one of that came out last year. Yeah. And that starts at the difficulty that the last one ended at.
Right. Oh, fuck.
So if you're playing 2020 for the first time, you've not played the 2016 game, you're automatically expected to know how this game system works.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't give you much in the way of a tutorial. It's just like, here you go. Here's 1,000,000 fucking demons. You're fucked. Off you go.
What else did I have? I had that Duke Nukem free, the updated Duke Nukem.
Yeah.
On their PS3 years ago. And again, I remember getting it. It's like, oh man, it's so like updated and it looks cool as fuck. Got to a difficult bit, never played it again.
Yeah,
That was like cost me about 40 quid. That.
see, I don't play many like one-player games these days.
Yeah.
Like I'm purely a fighting game person.
Right.
So I'm playing on at the moment online because there is no fucking events happening, obviously. But you know, me versus someone online,
Yeah.
either get battered or batter someone, and that's it. And the great thing about fighting games is they don't take too long. If you want to have like one set with someone, it's going to take you a maximum of what you get 99 seconds in a round, 2 rounds a match, maximum of 3 matches.
Ain't enough time to get bored then, is there?
Yeah, you can play that one match, win or lose it, and then go, you know what? My brain shut off.
That's why Mario Kart does well.
Yeah.
I used to play Simmons when we had Wii's. I used to play Simmons at Mario Kart as well. That was fucking funny, man. You only had a little choice of things to say.
Yeah.
So like constantly, I don't know why we found this funny, but we used to send each other a message. I'm going to use my Wii wheel. Constantly over and over again to each other, and then we'd see each other at caliber rehearsal. We'd be like, I'm going to use my Wii wheel. So stupid.
I bet there's other people in the band like, what the fuck?
It's so stupid. That's such a banging fucking game, though, Mario Kart, man.
I got into Mario Kart again when the DS came out.
Yeah.
They had the DS Lite had just come out, and they put Mario Kart onto that. And with that, you could have 8 people with DS Lites, and you could all sync up with each other. And just So we'd all go around to my mate's house, and we'd all just sit there playing fucking Mario Kart and cussing each other out. And you cunt fucking blue shell me, you prick.
Yeah. That game, I'll tell you what though, when things are going against you in that game, you get the rage.
Oh, it snowballs. It also fucking snowballs.
Yeah.
Like, if you're at the back, unless you get the fucking bullet upgrade where you turn into the bullet and just fly through everyone, you get fucked because everyone's dropping bananas and throwing shells back at you and all kinds of shit.
Yeah, you like the mop up, ain't you?
Yeah, you're just getting fucking wiped left and centre. Absolute cunt of a game if you're at the back. You need to sort of get yourself... I normally sit around second place until the last lap, and then I'll find a way of getting into
red
first.
Shell at some point on the last lap.
Yeah, because what I don't want is if you're sitting in first, the blue shell goes straight to you.
Yeah.
So
that's quite a good strategy, actually.
If you're in first and you know a blue shell's coming, the first thing you do is you put the brakes on.
Yeah.
Because then you slide back and you take out the first 3 or 4 people with you. You all get knocked down, and then you take off again. And you
see, this is why I'm shit at computer games, John. I don't think of these things. I'm just like, come on, no, I can see the finish line.
I mean, I come from that Street Fighter thing. So like, I grew up playing arcades, like Street Fighter 2, competitive stuff like that. So you kind of learn little strategies that will apply to multiple games.
Yeah.
Down the line.
Was you one of them who used to go down a Trocadero and stick the little like
clicker,
oven lighter with the tinfoil on it?
Yeah,
and
get a little clicker. Yeah. We used to go down to Trocadero all the time because that's where I met one of my exes. But that place was rowdy as fuck.
Yeah, man. Some of my mates from when I was growing up used to go there. We used to waste all our dinner money on. There's a swimming pool near our school, and I used to waste all my dinner money on Final Fight.
Oh, Final Fight.
30p as tagger. I used to get so far on that.
Now here's the geek thing. Final Fight was actually the original Street Fighter 2.
Oh, was it?
So Street Fighter 1, which is the classic one-on-one fighting game.
Yeah.
Final Fight was originally pitched as Street Fighter 89 because that was the year it came out.
Yeah.
Because the arcades in Japan and America wanted a sequel to Street Fighter because even though it's a fucking awful game, it actually did quite well for an arcade back in them days.
Yeah.
So the arcade owners were like, oh, we want a sequel. And they were presented Final Fight as Street Fighter 89.
Yeah.
And they were like, it's a great game, but it's not Street Fighter. You can't call it that. People, when they're going to see Street Fighter, are going to want a one-on-one fighting game.
Yeah.
And that's not. So they took it back, called it Final Fight, and the same team that made that put out Street Fighter 2 like a year later.
Ah. Because weren't two of the characters Cody and Ryu or something, weren't they?
Cody and Guy are the other two characters.
Guy, that's it.
But
Yeah.
they all appear because it's considered canon to the Street Fighter storyline.
Right.
When they did the Alpha series, which is set between 1 and 2, they put Cody and Guy and a couple of the bosses.
I never knew that at all.
Like the samurai boss that you fight in the second level, the guy with the 2 fucking samurai swords.
Oh, yeah.
They put him in the Alpha game.
That's the boxing ring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the boxing ring with the guy with the 2 fucking samurai swords.
Yeah, that's where I always died.
Because he used to just run it and twat you with a sword and that'd be it. It'd be like, oh, that's half my fucking life bar gone.
Yeah, always would die at that. But I could get there with 30p.
Yeah.
Which was fucking impressive.
Well, this is what people didn't realise is Street Fighter 2 actually saved the arcade industry and in turn technically saved gaming.
Yeah.
Because if that game hadn't... Remember, back then, games came from the arcades before they hit consoles or home computers or whatever.
Yeah.
So if the arcade industry folded, so did a large chunk of your home gaming industry. So
True.
Street Fighter 2 just was this mad phenomenon. Like, for kids that weren't there at the time, people don't understand how big that game was in the arcades. It's fucking weird to try and explain. There were people queuing up around the fucking block to play a one-on-one fighting game on an arcade.
Yeah, it's mad.
Like you would go to, like you say, you'd go somewhere like Trocadero for the day and you would be waiting for your turn. I mean, if you got on there and you were good enough to stay on, fine, great, that was brilliant. But otherwise, you'd go on, you'd play your game, get beat, go back to the start of the queue and go around, you know what I mean? You could be waiting.
What did they do, like a winner stays on thing?
Everything was winner stays on.
Yeah.
That, I mean, like,
really went there that much, but
my mate Logan, who now runs a lot of the tournaments for Street Fighter 5, his tournament that he runs every month is called Winner Stays On because that's what we used to do here, sort of thing.
Oh, fucking hell,
So
right.
he took the name from that sort of thing. I mean, Street Fighter now is massive. Like, it's so weird to think that a game I played in the arcade now has like a world championship for it and is going to be represented at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Like there's 2 like computer games that are going to be at the Olympics. Street Fighter's 1 and Rocket League, which is like football in cars.
Okay. Never heard of that.
It's one of them sort of free to play games. You can download it on PSN or whatever and just play it.
Yeah.
It's basically like in a metal arena, you're in a car, there's a massive football, and you basically try and drive it into the goal.
Okay, sounds like fun, to be honest.
Though, like, the reason we're picking these 2 games is because anyone can understand them. Like, there's no technical bullshit. It's like one's a game of football, the other one's a fight.
Yeah.
And anyone can understand. Like, my old man has watched Street Fighter tournaments with me on screen. He was like, I don't really know the in-depth of it, but there's a life bar and a person getting punched in the face. And when they get punched in the face, the life bar goes down. And when that's gone, the round's
you can watch it.
It's really simple to understand.
Yeah. Do you know what? Switching it up a bit, I downloaded recently, and I don't know why I remembered it. But do you ever remember an early PC game? And it was like a pirate game. I don't think it was on sale. It was one of them games that used to just get spread around, called Dope Wars.
Vaguely, yeah.
And you was basically a drug dealer, and it was like a text game.
Yeah.
And you had 30 days, and you were a drug dealer, and you started off in debt to a loan shark, and then you had to pick up drugs cheap and go between different areas of New York and sell the drugs.
I know the name. I've never played it.
We used to play it when I was a kid, and I just remembered it, and I looked it up on the Android store, and it was fucking there, man. There's like the nostalgia was deep, man. I was like, fucking Dope Wars, man.
So a friend of mine's got like a bunch of emulators on his PC, and you can find emulation for anything now.
Yeah,
pretty much. So like he downloaded the emulators, set it all up, and then he went and found like the ROMs he found like a pack of ROMs basically online. It had like thousands of games in it, which he's still trying to sort of sort through and all the rest of it. But it's got everything from like Atari 2600 games, Amstrad, Spectrum, Commodore 64, Amiga, all the way up to about PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era.
Yeah.
and it's got virtually every game of them consoles you could possibly name. And he does his streams. He's just like, he pushes a random button, lets it select the game randomly, and plays it for a couple of minutes to see like what it's going to throw at him, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And it's just some like crazy games. I'm like, I remember this. It's shit, but I remember it.
Yeah.
Like he pulled up one the other day that was called Booty, and it was like this old, like a pirate game. It was like literally you played a pirate, and you had like sort of multiple levels of like a floor, like 3 or 4 floors on a thing. And there'd be multiple doors. You'd have to go and find the pink key to get into the pink door, and then get to the ladder, go down, and stuff like that. And it's absolute dog shit. But like, they were the games we grew up on. That was the extent of what a game was back then.
There's a computer shop where I grew up, and it had a £1 bin or a 50p bin, I think it even was, and it was just full of fucking shit old tapes.
Yeah,
but I could afford it on my I'd get whatever it was, £2 a week pocket money, and I could afford a game when I went in there. And so that was where all my Commodore 64 games come from, and most of them were fucking shite.
Well, this is it. It's like, we had a similar thing here in East End. We had like a guy that sold games, and you'd have like the new releases that were all like 7, 8, 99 or whatever. But then you had the budget wall, which was like, they were literally tapes in a standard tape case, and they were all like 99p, 1.99 or whatever like that.
Yeah.
So every week I could get a game, because like you say, you get like your £2 pocket money. You go up there on a Saturday, buy a new game, your Amstrad or Commodore, whatever it is you had. And you go home and play that, and it didn't matter how bad it was. That was your game for the week, because that was what you that's what you were playing for that week.
It's true. Like, if it was really bad, I'd just go back to playing Micropro Soccer.
Yeah.
Because that was such a good game, man. Fuck me, that was good. That was addictive as fuck. But like, there was other games though. Like, there was some games that you'd never even understand what the fuck you were supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
There's one game called Tau Ceti. I think I'm pronouncing it right. It's the name of a star.
Right. Yeah.
And apparently, in this world, you go over these jump pads, which are like portals, and they take you to other jump pads, and you're flying around. But I never understood what I was supposed to fucking do in this game. I had it for years, and I kept going back to it because it was kind of cool looking, but I never worked out what the fucking actual mission was. And because I bought it in the little fucking, it was like a loose tape, so I had no inlay or nothing with it.
Yeah.
It had the tape itself. I've probably still got that somewhere tucked away.
I had a game that was supposed to be based on what we now call G.I. Joe, but in the UK we called it Action Force at the time.
Yeah. And
you was going along the screen, you had a little Jeep you was in control of. But at the same time, you seemed to be in control of a airplane that was above it. So whenever you moved one, both went. The problem was, like, there was a certain point on the first level, and it was literally like the first 20 seconds of the first level. You had to make the Jeep jump across this gap.
Yeah.
But when you did it, because you pushed the jump button, you kind of lost control of the plane for a brief second. And there was enemies in helicopters coming in the opposite direction, shooting at you, which you'd have to avoid the bullets. Because you lost control of the plane, you got shot out of the air. Or you dropped the Jeep down the fucking hole.
And so there was no way through it, basically.
Yeah, I was like, 20 seconds into this game, I was like, I don't understand how I'm supposed to fucking do this. This is a physical impossibility.
Some of them games they would kill you. Fucking hell. But some of them were really inventive as well. And the best thing about it is they packed a lot of action into like, whatever it was, like 30 kilobytes of actual game.
Yeah. There was like no memory space in there whatsoever.
There was like, they did good work, man, with those games. For what they had available, like, they were entertaining, some of them really entertaining.
I think the one thing that always reminds me of the game back then that you have to kind of explain to kids is loading a tape.
Yeah. Well, half kids don't even know what a tape is.
That's true.
So you've got to explain to them what a tape is. And then the thing that you had to, like, on your Commodore 64, you had to type in some words, and it would say, okay, now you can press play on the tape.
Yeah.
And then
run, whatever the name of the game
minutes.
was.
Yeah. Oh, and then other games, the really big games, like I had the Turtles game, and on the Commodore 64, you'd get out of one level, and then you'd have to
Load the next level.
press play on the tape, and then sit there and wait for 5 minutes for the next level to load up.
Because what
Or
they would do is they'd load the game up and then they'd load each level after that. But then if you died, you had to rewind to the loading point of the first level. So what you had to do was get your counter on the tape deck, the little fucking 3-digit counter, get to where the game had stopped loading and it was about to start loading the first level in, click your counter so that it was at 0. So when you had to rewind it back after you'd got 4 levels and died, you could get back.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, what a hassle, man.
Fucking nuts, the shit. But I tell you what, though, games were easy to copy.
It's true. It is true.
Like that was the advantage you had, was you could pirate every single game. There was no fucking region locking or anything like that. You just got a blank tape, bang.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
I'd get like a 90-minute tape and put like 5 or 6 different games on there. But then you had the thing of trying to, again, with a counter, having to find out where the fucking game you wanted to play started, that sort of thing.
I had plenty of like C90 tapes with like 7 or 8 games on one side.
Yeah.
It's mad, just so mental to think about how that was.
And now I've got like 1,000 times the power of that in my phone.
Yeah.
Easily 1,000 times the power of that is in my phone that I carry around every day.
Well, I actually had a version of Final Fight in my phone a few years back.
Yeah, I had Streets of Rage on mine.
Yeah.
I found there was Streets of Rage was going around on Street Fighter 4 was on phones recently. I was like, you're fucking that's a PlayStation 3 game. How the fuck have you got that on a phone?
It's madness, and like I remember being a kid and being in the arcade and playing these games and thinking, man, this is amazing. I can't and never having the thought that you would just be carrying around limitless amount of games in your fucking pocket. It's nuts.
It's the same thing as like films. Like you think when we were kids, you got a VHS tape.
Yeah.
Now I can literally send you a film across the internet. Like if I said to you, "Oh, have you seen this film?" You went, "No." I could literally Dropbox it to you.
Yeah.
Right now, it'd take like 20 minutes maximum to upload and download it at your end.
Yeah. I know.
And you could watch it on your phone.
Anyone who's under the age of like 20 that's listening to this, I think we have to apologise because they're going to be wondering what the fuck we're talking about. We have become the old men.
Oh, yeah. So with everyone but us, here's a question. How did you fall into the role of producer on that?
Well, I just, when we were talking about it, about starting to do it, I was like, oh, well, yeah, no, I've got some stuff we can record it on. So I'll bring it and then I'll just do all the editing. I think for some reason it was just always me. I just volunteered myself to do it. And that's just how it's been ever since.
Yeah. Had you ever done anything like that before? Or
Nah. I would never even have thought to do it, to be honest with you. And obviously, like, I'm more the quiet one on Everyone But Us. Some partly because you can't get a fucking word in edgeways with Waymer and Lewis anyway. But like, that just ain't me, like talking in front of like audiences and shit like that. And most of the time we've got like, especially over Zoom when there's like 5 or 6 it doesn't flow quite as good as it does when pre-pandemic we were all sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
So I tend to say a little bit less at the moment. I think when we get back to normal and we're back in the same room as each other, it will kind of even itself up a little bit. But yeah, the editing side of it, I quite enjoy just sitting down and getting stuck in, to be honest. The most recent one though that we've got is just taking me fucking forever to do. Absolutely forever. And it's because it's because me and Wayne were perfectionists about this stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't like when I've got someone sort of going, and then taking a long gap. For me, that's got to go out.
Oh, yeah, that's the only thing I will cut is if I've got someone that's been nervous or they're not used to speaking in this sense and they've and ahed their way through it. If it's getting I'll listen to it back, and if it's getting too much, then I'll start cutting and dropping out. But that's the only thing I'll ever edit.
Yeah, that's what I tend to edit out. and when you've been recording for like hours and hours, then you've got a lot of instances of people going, because in normal conversation you don't really notice it.
Yeah.
When you're listening to it back, you're like, oh shit. So then I'll be just like, cut that bit out, cut that bit out. It will take me, sometimes it will take me a day or more than a day to edit it.
What was great about one of the episodes I did was someone said it so much that I could actually didn't need to hear it. I could see the shape of it.
Shape, yeah.
It's just like that person has a very specific and I could see the shape of it coming up. There it is. Clip, 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 clip.
I had the same thing, man. When we did the one with Ian Glasper, Waymer was like, Steve, man, I've noticed that recently I go, yeah, 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 all the time. He's going, and he goes to me, when you hear that, can you cut them out? When I'm going, yeah, 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 just cut it out. Because he goes, all I can hear when we're doing the podcast is me going, yeah, 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 yeah. And so me being the wanker for, I'm going to save all these yeah, yeah, yeahs up. And like, I made them into one song.
Yeah.
Just Waymer going,
this.
yeah, 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 yeah. Thankfully, he saw the funny side of it. I said I got the podcast ready and I sent it to him, and he's like, thankfully, saw the funny side. But it's hard, man, when you're doing a podcast and you've said something. Like, I tend to overanalyze everything I say, especially when we're talking about politics or something quite serious where I really want to represent myself well.
Yeah.
I really struggle with words because I second guess myself an awful lot. And so often I either don't say anything, or when it comes to the edit, I'm like, I just sound like such a cunt. I'm going to just cut it out. So there's that as well.
So how do you decide what you're cutting, especially when you're cutting like your guest stuff?
I tend to just base it on whether I think it would be particularly interesting to listen to.
Yeah.
And I kind of just try and put myself in the place of someone who's listening to the podcast and thinking to myself, I want to maintain their attention for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And when someone just drones on about something, as people do during conversations, and let's face it, podcasts are just conversations.
Yeah.
I tend to cut that out, and I do it just because it sounds, for me, it sounds just a little bit more kind of snappy and to the point. You know, it's something that hopefully is a little bit more entertaining for people.
Yeah.
Than if they're just banging on about some bollocks.
So my approach is very much the opposite almost. It's like, I'm not worried about it being snappy or stuff like that. I want to make sure that because I'd always be worried about cutting out something that they really wanted to.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm like, I'm just going to leave. And this is why I say to all of my guests, I'm not going to edit or cut this.
Yeah.
So what you say is what goes out. So just be aware of that.
You're going to hear what a droney, boring bastard I really am.
Yeah. But and you know, I've had nothing but good feedback apart from some weird issues with some people, which I'm kind of not going to address at this point, because I think I've said it to a few people where it's like people said, "Oh, you haven't covered this and you haven't covered that, and you've had the opportunity to," and I've been like, because I'm just having conversation with my friends.
Yeah.
And if certain topics come up or subjects come up, then fine, we'll discuss them because they've come up naturally.
Yeah.
But I never wanted this to be a show that had any kind of agenda.
Nah, we didn't with everyone but us either. The reason we started it, and I feel like it's a little bit similar with your kind of reasons as well, is that mainly we wanted to just we wanted to learn a bit more about the bands that we have sort of grown up alongside and hear the backstories. You know, you see these people constantly like at shows every other week or whatever. But a lot of the time you don't know anything about their lives behind like the bits that you know about.
Yeah, like they're like, you'll have a laugh and a joke at the show, but
yeah,
a proper conversation like, well, how did like one of the first guests you had, I think, was Prowler.
Yeah, yeah.
So that sort of thing of being like, you know, so how does that song come about? Where does that come from? And like, what's your influences behind prior to getting to this point and things like that?
Exactly,
conversations you wouldn't have when you're at a show.
Exactly. And that's what drove us to do it. And I love that side of it. I really do. My favourite one was probably Ian Glasper.
Yeah, because there's a lot of history there.
Fuck, man. That was the last one, I believe, that we did before the first lockdown. And I just remember sitting there and we were in the rehearsal room and I had work early the next morning and I was just like, we've got to get another hour, man. We got like, it was 10 o'clock cut off, but the studio's open till 11.
Mm.
So we got to get an extra hour, man. We can't just, because I was just so like interested in all the things that he was talking about, especially, you know, when it's stuff that's way before my time and that, and different perspectives as like someone who was already an adult in the mid 90s when I was still a kid, and it was fucking fascinating listening to what he had to say. But yeah, I love talking to like my mates' bands and just hearing their story really, and hearing about how they got to where they got to. Yeah. And Prowler was a great example. That was a great start, to be honest, I thought.
Yeah, the Prowler one, because Prowler was split into 2 episodes, wasn't it?
No, Prowler was just one. Prowler was just one. We had TLC on 2 episodes and we had 9 Bar on 2, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Well, Fatty, it was just Fatty, I think.
Yeah, because you did do one with Fatty and Matty. Yeah,
we did one, and then it just didn't turn out so great. Everyone was just getting a bit drunk and stoned. You know how we do. Like, it was turned out being like one of them, and so we met up with Fatty at a later time up in Mill Hill.
Yeah,
and set it up, and his one was really good as well. I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah,
because he's got so much sort of like history and knowledge, and he actually came into the scene a very different way to most of us. I came through metal, but Fatty was like listening to Bad Brains and stuff when he was a kid.
Yeah,
like, he was skating and shit like that. Like, so it was really cool to hear that story as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to get him onto this as well because I really want to have a conversation. Because he actually, as regards not so much music, but films.
Yeah.
Like, his film taste is... I mean, he introduced me to one of the most horrific films I've ever watched.
2 Girls, 1 Cup.
No, I wish it was that clean. Him and Matty Barr were banging on about this film called Men Behind the Sun.
Yeah.
You can't find... It's been banned in this country, but you used to be able to find it like to download. I haven't been able to find it again for a while.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a Chinese film, but it's set in a Japanese prisoner of war camp.
Right.
And it's all the experiments being conducted on people.
Oh, shit, right, yeah.
And it's fucking bleak.
So it was like all the eugenics sort of stuff.
So there's like, the reason it actually got banned is actually for animal cruelty, because the guy who directed it wouldn't say whether it was a real rabbit or not that they used, but they basically get a rabbit and throw it in this room full of rabid rats.
It was.
It definitely was. But like, he wouldn't say yes or no to it being fake or not, so they were just like, no, it's banned then, because you can't have animal cruelty on film, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there's like a scene where they're doing an autopsy on a live child. There's a bit where they shove this guy into a decompression chamber, ramp it up, and he literally shits his guts out through his ass.
Oh.
A woman where she's out on the mountainside and they've got her arms up on these racks and it's like freezing cold. So she's got all this ice over her arms, and then they put her arms into like warm water.
Oh.
And then they bring her back up and they put like a metal bar against the skin and just flicks the skin off.
Oh.
And it's just shit like, man. It's like literally like an hour and a half of shit like that.
Just torture.
Yeah. And it was just like, they were like, oh, you've got to see this film. So I'd gone and downloaded it. I sat down and watched it. I was like, this is one of the most horrific things I've ever fucking sat and watched.
Oh, man. I might be up for watching that, to be honest.
If you can find it, I mean, like I say, I had a copy of it, and I think it's on a hard drive that died. So I've tried to find it and download it again since, and I can't find it anywhere.
I bet Frank's got it.
Probably.
Frank's got it, because he's into loads and loads. He's got hard drive after hard drive full of fucking different...
He was put into... Recently, he put together these little montage video things of like loads of random weird shit that was just all over the place.
Yeah, man. Proper like stoner shit, I think.
Proper like acid trip. Like, you literally walking, I was like, I don't know if I've taken an acid trip in a while, but fuck me, this is like very similar feeling.
Yeah, man. Yeah, they're fucking mental, these videos.
Yeah.
Cool as fuck, though. Like, I think if you're in the right sort of state of mind, they must be like real...
I'm not sure what state of mind that would be. Like, high as a fucking kite is what I would suggest.
Quite possibly.
But
he definitely, he really like puts a lot of time and effort into them videos as well, man. Like, They're not just like random shit.
No, but they seem like it, but they're just so disturbing.
Yeah, man.
Like
Yeah.
it's just like, I mean, he could. If you was going to do that band again and you're going to do a video for it, don't actually make a hardcore video. Just let him piece random shit together and just then put out like a fucking track.
Well, his album, they did a video for Kaihoro, and it was just cats, I think, for the most part. It was a tune called "Redundant Lives." That's it. I loved the video. I've got to be honest. It was like a weird animated.
Is it on YouTube or?
Yeah. I'll send you the link after.
Yeah, definitely, man.
Yeah, Kaihoro with "Redundant Lives," and there was a lot of cats, some weed, and then just pictures of sort of like, chavvy types, and it was, I mean, you can get what the song was about.
Yeah.
But it was really cool, man. I really sort of quite liked it, and I like the fact that he's carried on his cat motif to the new band as well.
Yeah.
He snuck a cat on the front cover of their new demo as well. Fair play.
But like them videos are also like, it's very much the work of a potential serial killer. Like this is a disturbed mind at work when you're looking at them videos.
Do you know what it is? It's the disturbed mind of an angry stoner who love cats and who never actually would hurt anyone. I don't think.
No, not at all. Like Frank's a really lovely guy whenever I've spoke to him, sort of thing. But it is that sort of thing. Like I look at the videos, I'm like, you are seriously fucked up, my friend.
I love what he does, man. Even when the stuff that he does isn't necessarily for me, I just think it's just original. It's got life to it, like it's creative.
There's a personality to it that can only come from that person, sort of thing. It's like
I've got time for that.
If you said to me like, "Who's this video by?" About that's Frank.
Yeah,
you look at it, like, that's fucking Frank. Without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
Get to direct an Ironed Out video.
I don't know how that would work.
Can you imagine McBoo fucking pulling his hair out looking at it?
Why is there a fucking cat in this video?
Why is there any of this in this video? How the fuck does this represent Ironed Out?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's not going to look like the Pagans video.
No, it would. No.
How was that process?
I can't even begin to imagine.
Doing videos like that, those sort of like Pagans and stuff like that. How did you find doing videos like that?
It's quite a simple setup, really. We just had a rehearsal room at Mill Hill. We they were pretty good about it, to be honest. They knew that we were doing that in there, and they just kind of let us decorate the room. And they were just like, as long as you leave it as it was when you came in, we're fine.
Yeah.
And the guy filming the video bought a load of the lights and stuff down. He came down at really short notice as well, actually.
Yeah. Because
the geezer that we should have been filming with pulled out at the last minute, and we still don't have our deposit money back from him. But that's a different matter.
So, because the guy that did Pagans is the same guy that did the
Pavement Strong video.
Pavement Strong video, yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly, like that Pavement Strong video was, I don't think we could have been more happy with a video than we were with that one. It was. I can still watch it now. I think that is just such a fucking cool video, man.
Yeah.
Even though I'm in it. Pagans, like, he set it up at really, really short notice. We got the ideas together at pretty short notice as well. But I think he did a really good job of it, and it looks very different from Pavement Strong, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Don't want everything looking the same. You might notice at the end of that video, there's like, the geezer that's handing out the flyers.
Yeah.
You see the close-up of someone handing out flyers. And then at the end, like, there's a bloodied up hand with bloodied up flyers, and then it reveals the swastika on it.
Yeah.
That's my hand. And I printed up those flyers, right? And it occurred to me while I was driving to that video shoot. I get pulled over for any reason, and I have all these, like, flyers. And they actually said some pretty right-wing shit on it because I didn't know how much of focus they were going to get. So I kind of, like, regurgitated some, like, UKIP shit. And I was like, if I get pulled over, I am fucked, because looking like how I look,
Yeah,
holding flyers, that is not a good look.
I mean, to be fair, you have the look with for them flyers. You have the look for it, don't you?
Fuck me, I look like a gammon. I can't help it, but I do. The only thing I've got going for me is that I don't have high blood pressure, and that's it. Can't help it. I'm a man of a certain age.
I mean, to be fair, it would have been even weirder if it had been fucking like Waymo or Louis making up them flyers and bringing them to the fucking.
I'd have been up for getting them stopped.
Imagine the cops seeing that and being like, looking at Gino and be like,
Wait, that would have been hilarious.
I think you need to be sectioned, my friend.
Yeah. Or the ideal scenario really would be like Waymer and Lewis in the front and me in the back holding all the flyers, and they're just giving me a lift. And then we get pulled over, and then they look. And then I could just imagine the situation. The police is going like, looking, just doing a backwards and forwards, looking at me and then looking at them, and then like just giving up and just saying, just go on, carry on, do what you're doing.
Whatever you're doing, just carry on.
I can't be asked to think this much.
Well, it's been good to talk to you again, catch up.
Yeah, mate.
I do that a lot at the moment with the whole lockdown fucking thing going on. So
hopefully, if anybody is still listening to me drone on at this point,
I'm sure they will be.
I salute you.
But no, it's been good to chat, mate. And for everyone else listening, I'll catch you guys in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, until then, take care, and we'll speak to you soon.